This episode of Sacred Symbols, a PlayStation podcast, is brought to you by CastBox. CastBox is the fastest growing, highest rated podcast app where you can find all of your favorite podcasts, and it's available on both iOS and Android. You can listen to Sacred Symbols via whichever service you choose, of course, but we hope you'll give CastBox a shot. We think they're pretty rad. To get each episode of Sacred Symbols 3 days before the public, completely ad-free, please consider supporting the show on Patreon at patreon.com/ColinsLastStand. Perks for support include not only getting the show early and ad-free, but you can also gain access to monthly exclusive podcasts, and supporting on Patreon is the only way to get your listener mail read on the air, and much more. Plus, supporting Sacred Symbols on Patreon also nets you perks for other Colin's Last Stand shows automatically, including the nostalgia and retro podcast Knockback, the YouTube series dedicated to gaming called SideQuest, and the eclectic interview podcast Fireside Chats. Thank you for your generosity, kindness, and support. Without you, Sacred Symbols and all things Colin's Last Stand would not exist. But enough of that. On to the show. Greetings and salutations. Welcome back to Sacred Symbols, a PlayStation podcast, I believe. This is episode 20. My name is Colin Moriarty. I'm joined as always by my co-host, Chris Raygun.
Oh boy, It's episode 20. That's 2 whole tens.
I know, it's an amazing number. It's a milestone for us, and it's exciting. It doesn't seem like we've even done that many episodes, to be perfectly honest with you.
Yeah, it seems to be kind of flying by. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, it's good. Our show is picking up steam. We're so pleased that so many people are enjoying it. We thank you very much for your kindness and support, whether you support us on Patreon at patreon.com/ColinsLastStand, which you get early ad-free access to each show if you do, or you just listen to us on various free feeds. We appreciate you there as well. Remember to leave us nice reviews. Chris, how is your life?
Going pretty good. I'm ahead of schedule for the first time in like what feels like ages. So a lot of content's kind of done. I'm just like waiting to do like finishing touches on it. But yeah, ahead of schedule, so it's good.
And I made a comment about your attire today when I saw you.
I'm dressed a little bit more wintry because I finally there's like a glimpse of cold in LA now. And I pretty much use every bit of opportunity I can to actually wear the clothes that I have, which is all like New Yorker clothes.
Sure. Yeah, you're wearing a black beanie. You got like a red, almost like the Brawny Man shirt.
Yeah,
describe it as that.
Like an Andy Milonakis season 1.
It's a good pull.
It's a deep cut.
I used to love Andy Milonakis. He was from your neck of the woods, kind of, right? No, he was from Westchester.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, so I guess, that makes
Yonkers.
sense. I used to love that. It was always so peculiar to me that show was always so weird because wasn't he like 35 years old when he did that show?
Yeah.
But he was like, I was pretty sure he was 15 for the first 2 seasons.
No, it's insane. I love that show though because it's like it's an internet show before like internet shows on just randomly on MTV, and you're like, what is this? What?
I wonder how much money he made doing that show. I hope he made lots of money. He was an interesting fellow. But yeah, I said that you look like you're ready to go to the Pearl Jam concert, and I don't mean that as an insult. I don't mean that as an insult at all. I think you look fantastic. So welcome. And you're giving me a lot of New York vibes with your clothing. Of course, I just wear the same T-shirts over and over again. I do the laundry, basically. I have probably literally 300 T-shirts in my closet.
Yeah.
And I do the laundry, and then the same 8 or 10 just go on top of the pile, and I just keep grabbing them over and over again. What do I care? I mean, what am I even doing anymore?
That's kind of what I do, too.
Yeah.
That's why I'm like, hey, I can wear a long sleeve shirt now because there's a slight breeze. Even though there's like fires all over the place, which is weird.
I know. We should say a note about that. We record the show. Chris lives in LA proper. I live in Santa Monica. And there's obviously fires raging all over California, in Northern California by Sacramento and all that, but also down here, specifically in Southern California and just a few miles away in Malibu.
Yeah.
Completely wrecked, basically. And because of the winds and then kind of the urban nature of Santa Monica, there's no real threat of it spreading here, even though we're kind of like perpendicular to the fires. So that's good, I guess. But I mean, my heart goes out to everyone that's affected by this absolutely terrible destruction. And we hope everyone out there is okay or doing the best that they can. I am positive that people have been displaced that listen to the show. So we are thinking about you at this trying time as well. Now, Chris, we moved the show last week.
Yeah.
It went pretty much without a hitch. For people that don't know, we moved RSS feeds because we're with this new group that's kind of representing us now. Really nice guys. It went off without a hitch for everyone except, of course, for anyone that uses Google Play, and this really goes to show you they probably should use an iPhone instead of an Android. But since you insist on using Android phones and you insist on using Google Play, we had some issues there. We think we rectified the issues. So moving forward, I apologize about that. Nothing I can do. Here's the funny thing. 301 redirects are read automatically by all of these, iTunes and CastBox and whatever.
Yeah.
Google Play does not read them and does not care about them. And you have to literally go and message them and hope that you hear back from them. And this morning I heard back from them.
It just refuses to read them?
It just does not work. To make episode 19 appear on Google Play for the people that weren't getting it, and they still got it late, unfortunately, we had to populate the old SoundCloud feed with the show, and then it popped up like a day later.
It's insane.
And then I emailed them and got messages out, and they were very nice, and they switched it, and it works now. So we should have no issues. If you are seeing any issues where you are, that's a problem for us, so let us know, and let me know. It's not really Chris's problem, and then we will take care of it from there. But thank you for your patience as we moved over. Chris, the Red Dead Redemption 2 podcast that we're going to do is still coming. We were going to record it today, but we're still not ready. It will still go up for patrons on Friday. So by the time this hits free feeds, essentially, the exclusive podcast will be live for our patrons.
Yeah.
On patreon.com/Colin's Last Stand. And then it'll go live 3 days later for everyone else on free feeds. We're both like 70-something% through the game. It's an enormous game.
Yeah, no, it's one of the biggest things I've ever seen. As far as like a single player game goes, like I'm actually like borderline astonished that there's this much in it.
I have to say that I'm kind of eager for it to be over. I feel like it's a little bit, for me anyway, kind of overstaying its welcome, where I'm like, I just played the game for 3 hours and it says I'm 2% further through the story. How's that possible?
No, yeah, it is one of those things that it definitely feels like it's overstaying its welcome. But like me saying that sounds a lot more negative than it is. I'm glad in a weird way that it's overstaying its welcome because it's just really solid and really good. But at the same time, it's like anything where it's like you spend a lot of time surrounded by cowboys and you're like, oh my God, I need to take like a break. And then you take a break and then you come back and then you've forgotten how to do everything. So it's one of these, it's very demanding and very long.
It's incredibly long. I can't believe how big the game is. I'm really enjoying it. Yeah, it sounds more negative than it is, but it's a similar thing that I used to say about The Witcher and other games where I'm like, I could have used this a little shorter, I think. But I'm impressed with the amount of detail in the game. And we'll talk more about it. But I just wanted to let everyone know the podcast is coming. We were going to record it today. We're not going to record it today. I feel bad. Chris has got to come back on Thursday to do it, but we'll record. And again, just like the Spider-Man conversation, we'll frame it all around your questions, comments, concerns, thoughts, and ideas that you have submitted already. By the dozens, by the scores, indeed, over on Patreon. So thank you for that.
Yeah, and this time we'll actually spoil it because there were a lot of people complaining that we didn't spoil it on the Spider-Man one.
Yeah, I got to structure it a little bit better this time around. There's no doubt about that, because I feel bad about that. We called it a spoiler cast. I like that term. I intended on spoiling it more. So I think we have to kind of lead up front with some thoughts and some synopses, as it were. And then we'll get into your questions, comments, and concerns. So remember, if you're a patron and you're hearing this on Patreon, you still have time to submit your questions. If you're hearing this on free feeds, you're shit out of luck, unfortunately. You're out of time. Chris, I wanted to put this rather in the news, but I didn't, because I don't know that it's necessarily newsworthy, but there are Black Friday deals of significant import that Sony has announced that people might be interested in. Go to the PlayStation blog and check them out. Pricing depends on if you're in Canada, if you're in the US, if you're in Europe. I don't know what they're doing over there. I don't even know Black Friday's a thing over there, actually. But they have things like $200 Spider-Man standard PS4s, 1 terabyte PS4s. I think for $200, something like that. They have, I think, PSVR with games for $200 and some other stuff. PS Plus subscriptions, I think, are cheap. So I don't know if it's started yet. You guys go check that out. But I know that everyone's looking for a good deal, as you should. So those things are over there for you to enjoy.
PSVR for $200 is pretty good.
Yeah, not bad at all.
That's nuts.
Not bad at all. And, I've really been wanting to plug it in and play it more lately. And I think I will do that. Once we're through this, we have... this weekend we got Spyro and Hitman. I have not played either of them yet. I'm going to kind of let my girlfriend, I think, mess around with Hitman. I know you're excited about it. Actually, it's funny because yesterday you and I were talking over text. I had sent you a Spyro code that morning before football had begun.
Yeah.
And my assumption was that you would tap out of Red Dead and I would end up doing the episode by myself, which was totally fine because you had wanted to play Spyro. But you had told me that you're actually more keen on Red Dead than Spyro, which was a surprise to me.
Well, yeah, because it's a new thing. So it's still very engaging and it's new. It's like Spyro, it's like I played a little bit of Spyro and I'm having a blast with it. I actually like it a lot more than I thought I would. But it's also something I've experienced before.
Sure.
So there's no rush to get through Spyro. Like I'm not, excited to see what happens to Ripto.
Oh,
you know what I mean? I've seen that already.
I wonder if they will retcon anything because in the original Ratchet and Clank, as you might remember, Ratchet and Clank didn't like each other. This is something that I've complained about in the past. If you play the original Ratchet and Clank, they're dickheads to each other. They don't like each other at all. And it used to make me so mad and upset because I liked their relationship in further games. And when they redid the game in 2016, I guess it was, on PS4, they totally retconned that to make them buddies, which I liked that they did that. So maybe there's going to be something similar in Spyro. Maybe Spyro and Ripto are lovers or some shit.
It's not. It's surprisingly faithful, which is a good thing.
Good. I'm looking forward to playing it. I've never been a Spyro fan. I'm going to jump into that. We'll talk about what we're playing in a moment.
Yeah, sure.
We have, Chris, though, a litany of questions, comments, concerns that I want to put up front. Because
and ideas.
And ideas as well. And notions. And, things of this nature. Inquisitions. Andreas Anderson wrote into us. And remember, you can write into us if you support us on Patreon at patreon.com/ColinsLastStand. He said, hello, Chris and Colin. He put your name first.
Oh, yeah, good call.
I just wanted to make a small correction to last Sacred Symbols. When you were talking about the Grinch theory regarding Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, you said that the theory was that the Grinch would be in the game. This is, in fact, not correct. The theory was called the Grinch theory due to the fact that the company that was responsible for some of the marketing for the game was also responsible for the marketing of the latest Grinch movie, and that it was someone in this company that was behind the leak. Anyway, keep slaughtering those infants. We will. I liked our version of it better.
Yeah, I think ours is a lot more entertaining. I like, by the way, that there is a thing called the Grinch theory trademark. I like that that's an event now that we can remember in our old age.
I care less about it now that I know that the Grinch wasn't going to be in the game. Because that was way more exciting to me than whatever this nonsense is.
Can you imagine? I still can't get that out of my head, just the Grinch in that game. That'd be amazing.
It'd be awesome.
Yeah.
It'd be awesome. And by the way, I saw that you saw that Super Smash Brothers roster went out with all of the people on it.
Oh
you and I are both on it.
I can't stand
You didn't
that.
like that one
I
very
can't,
much.
No, my God. Why? It just makes me cringe sometimes.
Right.
Like when I see like, oh, hey, look, it's like the heroes. And it's like, what do you... Stop. There's no heroes here.
Yeah.
It's just weird.
I appreciate it. I'm on there. I'm wedged in between Thomas Sowell and Dave Rubin on the roster, so I'm right there in the...
But there's like
where
weird,
I shouldn't be.
There's like people like I think like is it Alex Jones is on it and this like
Pepe
is on it and it's like what I don't know, man. It's just
it was funny, but not funny enough. Let's say that.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed your tweet about it. And there's actually a funny tweet going on about it that people have been retweeting thousands of times, being like, "This is the worst thing that they've ever seen on the internet." So I'm sorry to have been a part of that, even though I had nothing to do with that.
No, me too.
But nice attempt. I appreciate it nonetheless. Niall Harrison wrote into us and said, hello, Colin and Chris. Haha. We are coming up on the 5th anniversary of the PS4. Just wondering, what have been your highlights so far? Mine was picking up my first PS4 at midnight with my then boss and seeing Uncharted 4 for the first time, thinking this is next gen. Thanks for the great show. Chris, by the time this goes live for the public, it will go live on Patreon early. It would have been the 5th anniversary of PS4. And
That's crazy. It doesn't feel like that long, honestly.
No, it's, November 15th, I think, 2013.
Yeah.
I remember getting it in the mail. So I was at IGN at the time. We got versions early from Sony, but those were for the office. So what I remember about that day is that UPS or FedEx or whatever brought in tons of boxes because everyone had pre-ordered the PS4 and then had it. We used to get our shit mailed to IGN so no one would steal our stuff. And I remember walking home with the little suitcase, that was a little suitcase thing, and being so, proud with my big dick, And it was really, really an exciting time. And it's been 5 years, and it's 5 good years for the PlayStation 4. It's a fantastic console, and PS3 is my favorite PlayStation console. And I think that after all is said and done, I would be surprised if PS4 wasn't my favorite PlayStation console.
But what's the highlight? What's your highlight? Getting it?
Getting
it on
that's
release?
A good point. Yeah, getting it, and then realizing. Well, I realized this when I got to mess around with the UI in Japan and stuff before it came out. But really having it in your house and realizing how good it was, how it worked.
Yeah.
And I was talking to my girlfriend, who I wasn't dating at the time during PS3, and wasn't dating when PS4 came out. And I was going to plug in, and I'm going to plug in the PS3 to show her how different it was. It was total Stockholm syndrome with everyone that used that console.
Yeah.
Like, this is totally normal.
The cross-media bar?
Yeah, it just doesn't work. It doesn't function. I told you on the show earlier that when I went to play Resident Evil 4 a few months ago on it, it took me hours to get the thing into functioning state. I had to update, wouldn't read the store. It was just a whole mess, man. And we really got lucky with the PS4 from that perspective. So, of course, there are great gaming memories and amazing memories from the first party and the third party and the second party, but my memory is just having this console that felt for the first time like a full multimedia machine. It was really cool.
Yeah, I can't argue with that. I think for me, it's definitely this year as far as like first party titles go, because it's, I don't know, like I said in previous episodes, like Horizon didn't quite grab me, and I got pushed away from it. So at this point, I'm like, I don't even know if I'll ever get around to getting it. But like this year with like God of War just coming out and surprising the hell out of me, and like Spider-Man and Detroit somehow being good when I expected it to be like horrendous.
Game of the year, Detroit.
I don't know, man. I can't support that.
Yeah, well, we'll have it out. When we do our Game of the Year
duke it
episode.
out. We'll do a celebrity a YouTube boxing match.
That'll be awesome.
Like everybody else is doing, apparently.
Is there more of that happening?
I don't know, probably.
By the way, is there a difference between Logan Paul and Jake Paul, or are they the same person? And I'm not even being facetious.
They're brothers.
Oh, so they are different people.
Yeah, they
I
are
thought they were
different
like
people.
one was the persona of the other or something like that.
I don't know. It's weird. It's like a fusion. It's like a Dragon Ball fusion sometimes. I can't tell the two apart, you know?
Well, because I think one is in good graces with people and one isn't.
They're both in pretty bad graces.
Oh, okay.
As far as I'm aware. One's like in slightly better graces. Like they're basically the same person, though.
Now, the guy that went to the Japanese suicide forest is the same guy that had the boxing match? Is
No.
he the same? So they're...
No, wait, yes.
Okay, so they're the same.
Both of them had the
So
boxing
you don't
match.
even know. You don't
So both of them had the boxing...
Oh, they both had boxing
They
matches?
both did the boxing match because
Oh.
it was brother against brother thing kind of deal. So
I thought he was fighting some other guy.
Oh, he was fighting some other guy's brother.
Oh.
It's a mess.
I
Nobody
see.
cares.
I have another confession for you. I've been meaning to say this to you for a while.
Yeah.
I'm going to confess something. I don't know what Discord is. Not what the word means, but Discord, like the thing people
Oh, the
uses.
app.
Yeah, I have some idea, I think, of what it is, but I
Right.
don't know exactly what that is.
It's I would liken it to, it's basically Skype, but a chat room.
Okay.
Basically, so it's like an app that you go in and you like go into different voice channels, and there's different text channels where people can. It's almost like this dedicated forum for certain people. Okay. Like I have a Discord, and like people can like talk about whatever.
Is there a lot of people in your Discord, or are there a lot of people in your Discord?
I think so. It was open for a while, but now it's like a patron thing. But Discord is a mess because the UI is just so horrendous. So I find it like to be just a complete chore to ever use it. So hopefully they can fix that in the future. Maybe I'm holding out hope for something that's probably not going to happen. But I don't know.
Holding out for a hero, as it were.
Yeah.
The only thing I know about Discord that I assumed it was some sort of chat venue was because I think it was Total Biscuit, RIP, but I could be wrong. Someone had said that in their Discord, someone had left it on or something while they were jerking off.
Oh no!
And so you could hear it, I guess.
Anyway, that'll happen.
I've been meaning. That just came to mind. Is that I've gone this long without knowing. It was like how I went many years without knowing what Snapchat was.
Oh yeah.
And then, by the way, the second I understood what Snapchat was, let's say like 2015, I was like, oh, they're gonna go out of business. And you guys can go look at their stock and see how right I was. Scott Lammers wrote into us, Chris, and said, I'd like to hear your thoughts on the whole Diablo thing now that we've had a week to digest. After watching your Let's Play, I think you mean my side quest, on it, I tried to be open-minded and consider the community as being too harsh. Ultimately, I've decided it was more a complete failure on Blizzard's part and they misled their Diablo fans. Do you think it would have gone better if they showed a Diablo 4 teaser like Bethesda did for Elder Scrolls 6? I know you knocked that move by Bethesda on the show, but now going through it from a Diablo perspective, I wish they would have shown us a similar thing. And he goes on a little bit, but I just wanted to read that because we did talk extensively about this last week, which didn't have an incredible amount to do with PlayStation. Blizzard does release games on PlayStation, of course, but do you have any additional thoughts on this? Because I'm kind of settled on my stance here.
I feel kind of the same way I felt last week. Last week I said it really was kind of mostly on Blizzard. Like, I just don't understand how professionals can't foresee that reaction to something like this, especially at like a hardcore venue. I do think fans overreacted, but at the same time, it's like you have to, as a publisher of that magnitude at a convention made for your hardcore audience, I just think it's a blatant oversight to not expect that kind of reaction. So I agree in the sense that, yeah, it is a mistake on Blizzard's part, 100%, but there are also a lot of people who are like a bit too livid about it. Because we, as we all know, Diablo 4 is happening. Like, it's not happening. You can rest easy knowing that you will get your proper Diablo game, and it'll probably be good.
I'm sure it will be, if not great. And yeah, I'm pretty of a similar mind as you. The one thing people took issue with that I said, Chris, both on my video and I think on the show, is that it's just a video game. And some people have a problem with that, but I think that that's a totally valid complaint. I think that we have to look at entertainment in a different and through a different lens and from a different angle. I understand people are passionate about it. I've made a living in the video game industry for a long time. I get it. I love video games. But hey, guys, it's a video game. Like, I think that that's a valid thing to say. It's not your healthcare. It's not global famine. We don't need to like get that crazy about our disappointment. I really do feel that way. I feel that way about fucking Star Wars nerds that are complaining about everything all the time and everything. Eventually, it's okay to have passions. We have passions every week on this show. Like Mega Man 11 was pretty disappointing to me. It was. I wasn't crazy about it, but like, what am I supposed to do about that?
I think language in general is kind of ill-equipped to handle people's. I don't think we're capable of actually displaying to people or communicating to people how we actually feel about certain things, because a lot of times language is based on hyperbole, especially on the internet. So I think a lot of the backlash that you do see is just kind of like, maybe people don't feel as strongly about this as they're leading on, but it's just kind of the only way we know how to communicate now feels like hyperbolic, enormous, larger than life kind of reactions to things. And I feel like that is just how things are going right now. I don't think people are genuinely like, like, taking torches out and like pitchforks and like gonna march towards Blizzard because they released a Diablo game on a phone. You know what I mean? It's just how a lot of people tend to voice their opinions that makes it seem like a bit. Because I've definitely tweeted some stuff that sounds pretty bad, but I was just like literally on the toilet and I didn't think about it for more than like 10 seconds. You know what I mean? And somebody reacts to it. It's like, why would you say this? It's like, oh, I didn't even think about this.
Yeah, that's true. Mindfulness is important. When that Pikachu detective movie was shown today for the first time as we're recording this, I tweeted out, a comment saying that this thing looks like it's gonna kill people.
I love it. I love that this thing exists. It's just so absurd that it exists, and I'm really happy to be existing in this timeline.
Why is Pikachu a detective? I don't understand how
it's a real thing that happened. Like it was a game, wasn't it?
I think so, but I never really thought too deeply about it. And frankly, I don't want to think too deeply about it. And now this movie's going to force us to think deeply about it.
Oh, I've been thinking about this deeply for ages.
Jonathan Figueiredo, I think I'm saying that right, said on Patreon, just a quick point. You said that the PS5 is likely doomed to some weird touchpad controller due to backwards compatibility. Why can't they just do the Wii U method and support last-gen controllers? I feel like that's the most likely solution and most efficient as well. So this is a point that we've been making about my wariness, Chris, about backwards compatibility, about how they're going to have to drag these features forward that are fucking stupid because games won't work. And yeah, that is an obvious solution, but I don't like that solution. I don't like the idea that you can't play new games without old peripherals. There needs to be a clean and seamless way to do this. And if that's the option, then that's fine. But that's not the ideal option.
Is the touchpad really that integral to that many games? Like, the only one that I can really think that even used it was Infamous.
Yeah, Infamous is the one that comes to mind for me too. Yeah, there are other games that use it in some weird way, and I'm sure.
But like maybe towards like the launch of the console, certainly not. Like I can't remember God of War ever using the touchpad other than a button, or like even like multi-platforms using it for anything other than just a button. I don't feel like that's a difficult problem to solve. Maybe you'd have an issue with like Infamous and maybe some others, but even then it's like I don't think we're doomed to a touchpad.
I hope not. I like his letter because I think he's right that we are worrying about this, or I'm worrying about this through a very limited, narrow lens of we can't use our old peripherals, and that's obviously a solution. I just don't like that solution. I want someone to have and I think Chris agrees, like an all-encompassing PS5 that has backwards compatibility and access digitally to everything and can all be played on one controller, one ecosystem, and one experience. Like, I frankly think it's weird that Nintendo still releases GameCube controllers. I think that's really strange. I think that's a strange thing. The GameCube came out when I was in fucking high school, dude. I'm 34.
Yeah, but the GameCube controller is really good.
It is. It's my favorite ergonomic controller.
Yeah.
But the fact is that they keep releasing it for a very limited set of games, especially Smash Brothers, where it's like, do you really want to get involved in this weird legacy thing that goes on where you're going to have to use the same form factor, and your new shit is so mundane to people that they're asking for controllers from 4 generations ago? Like, I just don't feel like that's an elegant solution. It's a very Nintendo solution, but I don't think it's a Sony solution. Chris, let's get into what we're playing.
Let's do it.
We've been playing Red Dead Redemption. We're going to save that conversation, but it says here you've been playing at least a little bit of Spyro. Do you have any initial thoughts other than what we had already said? How do you feel about it, very preliminarily?
Back when the PS1 came out, and back when I was like really into
this ecosystem of games, I think PS1 is like my favorite console of all time.
But I remember being far more into like Crash and Medieval and just weird kind of offshoots, not necessarily an Ape Escape. Spyro was definitely there, but it wasn't like the big focus. So when I went back to this remastered trilogy thing, it was weird because I couldn't recognize anything, even though I had played a bunch of Spyro. And then like only when I looked at like comparisons between the old game, I was like, oh my God, this is the same. But it didn't register to me at all. Unlike Crash, where it's like, oh, that's that level. It's so well done, and it feels very new to me, and it controls surprisingly super well, which I was surprised by because it's a PS1 game, and those don't typically have the best controls.
Right? Yeah, they
in the
updated
world.
it. I think. I'm curious if you noticed this Insomniac's logo. I know they didn't have anything to do with it. Is that on the splash screen anywhere? Do they even acknowledge them? I'm always interested in that because I don't think Naughty Dog was really acknowledged in the Crash trilogy.
I don't believe so. That's not really all that common a practice, because I remember when the Halo remasters came out, Bungie's name was like nowhere to be seen, which is kind of weird. But I don't recall Insomniac's logo being on it. I think that's just the nature of these kind of remasters, like when they're done from the ground up. I think it's weird that they're not there, but I can't recall it being there as far as I can remember.
I'm excited to play it.
It's good. It's a nice little collectathon. It's fun. It doesn't demand too much of your time. It's very pick up and play. It's nice. It's a nice little break, especially from constant cowboys.
Yeah, it's a lot. I mean, there's a lot of cowboys. A lot of
Good cowboys.
I was going to
but
say something else, but it's a huge spoiler, so never mind.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of cowboys and all of the things that go along with cowboys, like diseases, sexual promiscuity, gambling, horses, baths with hand jobs.
I don't think it's a hand job, by the way.
I think it's a hand job.
I don't think so.
I think it's a little
It's the
weird.
weirdest hand job I've ever seen.
I mean, when you're
And also, he looks very displeased.
he does, but he doesn't really seem to like anything. I'm gonna keep going with my hand job theory on that. I've been playing Tetris Effect, which I only bought and started yesterday. Now, I was actually a little taken aback because I didn't go and ask for a code for this. I was gonna go buy it, and so I went on PSN after football was over yesterday, and I was looking at them like $40 for this game. Like, that's really expensive.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And so I was like, you know what? Fuck it. Whatever. And so I bought it for $40. And it's a really great game. I mean, it's Tetris, and it's Tetris with kind of some of the new rules that they've embedded in, like you can save a piece, all the stuff that they do in some of the recent Tetris releases. But it's a very audio-visual feast in addition to Tetris, and the way you play the game and the cadence in which you drop the pieces and the kind of the vibration of the controls, it's really cool. It's especially cool on headphones, and you can play it on PSVR, although I didn't do it yet. But I love it. I think it's really cool. It's really, really good. I'm a sucker for Tetris. I know you are too.
Yeah. I wrote a paper in college about why Tetris was the best video game ever made. I don't remember what the hell I said in that because I don't remember what I could have possibly said to write like 8 pages worth of arguments, but Tetris is a great game.
It's a fantastic game. It's a special game, and I don't know if this version of the game is going to be for everyone. It's reviewing very well. People really like it. It is expensive. I think maybe you might want to wait for it to be a little cheaper, but
yeah, $40 does seem like, as much as I do love Tetris, that is a bit steep.
But it's definitely got production value, and it's definitely a step up from Tetris Ultimate. I mean, Tetris Ultimate, which came out in 2014, was the last major Tetris release on PS4, and it was fucking awful on PlayStation. For people that don't recall, it had significant issues for a lot of people on PS4. If you had huge friends lists and stuff like that, the game would constantly crash. I couldn't play it online and all that kind of stuff. Ubisoft knew about the issues before the game even came out because I told them about it. And I don't think ever even patched it. So it's just a totally ubiquitously broken game. And this is just a nice package. Again, a feast for the eyes, a feast for the ears. Really, really dig it. I assume it's quite spectacular in VR, but I'm just too lazy to hook my VR up. So
Can I ask you something? And this might seem like a stupid question.
sure, please.
Given the inception of Tetris, how and where it was originally created and who created it, does anyone own the Tetris IP?
So as far as I know, and this story's deep, and I'm probably getting parts of it wrong, is that, there's that famous story about, I think, Howard Lincoln from Nintendo going to the Soviet Union in the 80s to acquire Tetris, and how there were multiple people, I think, including the Soviet government, that were claiming ownership of it because I think one of their computer scientists, Andrei Petrov, whatever his name is, made it. And so I think he owns, in the Russian Federation, he owns the Tetris idea. And when you see any Tetris game, he's always named in the beginning. So my assumption is he gets rips. The Tetris company is a thing, so I think that's probably his conduit by which they license it out to everyone, the idea. But
It's so weird.
It's in, I want to say, Game Over, which is like 25 years old or more now, but it's a book about Nintendo.
Yeah.
Really great book. I think talk about how they went over there to try to acquire it, and almost nothing of consequence ever came out of the Soviet Union from 1919 until 1991. It's just complete famines and communism and gulags and Stalin, of course, and of course the dude with the birthmark on his head.
Yeah.
It's kind of like one of the most historic exports of that country. It's kind of interesting.
It's just weird. I can't think of another game that has a history like that, where it's just like, who the hell makes that? Like, what's that license like?
It goes way back to the beginning.
So weird.
I think, actually, in thinking about it, do you know the company Tengen? Tengen? They were okay. So for people that don't know, Tengen was a company that was making like basically illegal NES games and selling them, and they got sued by Nintendo because they were overriding the chip. It's a really fascinating story, but I think Tengen put Tetris on NES first. And there was like licensing confusion there. And then you guys might remember that there's the NES release of Tetris with the purple label on it.
Yeah.
And then there's the 89 pack-in Game Boy release, which is one of the best-selling, I think, or the best-selling version of Tetris.
That's where
ever.
I played it first.
So there's a lot of versions, and then there's Tetris 2 on Game Boy, etc. So, to answer your question, I think he owns it through the Tetris company, and I think they license it out to others, and I think that's the way it goes. But I could be wrong, and I'm sure someone will write in. You always do. Should we get into the news, Chris?
Yes.
This first piece of news is big.
Is it?
It is. If you're a gigantic nerd. Number 1. Major upheaval has hit Square Enix, and in particular its creative team behind Final Fantasy XV and those supporting it post-release. For starters, Hajime Tabata, director of Final Fantasy 15, has left Square Enix, with his resignation active as of October 31st. Tabata's first game in the industry was Monster Rancher 2, which I thought was ironic since we talked about Monster Rancher last week. I keep wanting to say Monster Hunter. He came to prominence with his work on Final Fantasy products, however, acting as director on PSP's Crisis Core, Final Fantasy 7, which I loved, and Final Fantasy Type 0, which I didn't love. He also acted as director, producer, and advisor on a ton of other games, both Final Fantasy and otherwise. He was the director of Parasite Eve 3, people might be curious to know, the third birthday on PSP. However, the biggest move came in 2013 when Tabata took over directing duties from Tetsuya Nomura, longtime director, producer, and designer, and overall powerhouse of the Final Fantasy franchise. The other big news is this. Almost all Final Fantasy 15 DLC is canceled.
Whoa.
4 future pieces of DLC, Arden, Aranea, Luna, and Noctis, were confirmed back in April, according to Kotaku. Arden, due out in March of 2019, is the only piece of DLC that will actually be released. This bad news for Final Fantasy fans and Square Enix comes on the back of just as bad news for the publisher. They posted a $33 million loss for the last 6 months, according to Games Industry International, with new sales down 15% year over year, operating income down a staggering 61%, and a calendar window where the publisher released both Shadow of the Tomb Raider and Octopath Traveler.
That's crazy.
You know, Final Fantasy 15, the drama around that game never ends. It never ended before when it was Final Fantasy Versus 13. Obviously, I used to make fun of it all the time. I was very convinced that it was never going to come out.
Was this like
totally
a decade of like drama now?
Yeah, more than that. And, you know, I was in college, I think, when Final Fantasy Versus 13 was shown for the first time. So this is a long time ago.
That's like 50 years ago.
I know. It's at least 50, 60 years ago at this point. I'm so very old. So people are upset about this, and I understand why. But, Final Fantasy 15 came out fall 2016. And then, you know, they're still sporting with DLC in 2019. That should show you that there's a problem brewing back there. And it makes you wonder about Final Fantasy 16, which I'm sure is in production, how they're going to do this. And I think that they just need to focus on making a standalone game. Just make a game and don't worry about all of the Pocket Edition and the prequel and the anime and all this shit. They're so distracted. And just like it's when it seemed like Square Enix was kind of like turning a corner.
Yeah, it feels like they've just got a lot on their plate. It gets to a point where it's like, you can't really be good at the thing you're good at if you're worrying about so much other stuff. You got to just kind of like get yourself focused.
Absolutely.
If you're going to do anything of merit.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you can't be scatterbrained like this. It's
no,
insane.
And I understand their want to kind of make this into a larger brand, and they started doing that almost 20 years ago with the Spirits Within and making it, you know, into an anime and making it into a product that was outside of video games. This has been going on since the PS1 and PS2 era, but I don't know. I don't know what they're doing, and it's so weird at a time, and we're going to talk about where Dragon Quest is kind of resurgent, and their Western products are doing pretty good, and, you know, or at least respectively, and they just seem to be like a different kind of company with a different kind of vibe. I was surprised to see this news, but I do wonder where this leaves not only this product, but also, does this have any effect on Kingdom Hearts 3? Does this have any effect? Because obviously there's tons of cross-pollination between those teams, and obviously the Luminous team and the Luminous engine and all. I don't know. There's going to be a lot of ramifications for this exit, I think, and I think he's leaving to do his own thing, so we'll find out about that soon enough. Number 2. Activision isn't pleased with Destiny 2's sales, particularly when it comes to Destiny 2 Forsaken, the massive and critically well-received expansion. In a somewhat throwaway line on an earnings call, a representative of the publisher said, quote, "Some of our franchises like Destiny are not performing as well as we'd like," end quote, according to Push Square. The website notes that Cody Johnson, Activision's COO, later said, quote, "We have not yet seen the full core re-engage in Destiny, which is left to be underperformance against expectations to date. Some players are in wait-and-see mode. If you're in, you're deeply engaged. If not, we think now's the time to bring players back," end quote. Destiny 2 launched in 2017 and was recently available for free on PlayStation 4 for PS Plus subscribers, likely to bolster those numbers. What do you think of this as a Destiny player?
I don't think it's surprising. I mean, it's a very damaged brand, and as I say that as somebody who actually does like it. They've kind of reached this point where twice in a row now we've had a release that just wasn't ready, that then 2 years after release they fixed with like a bunch of new DLC, and then finally after 2 years of being on the shelves, now it's finally a game that you can get into. So it's, if your legacy is entirely based on this, maybe I'll pick it up in 2 years. You know, because that's how I'm feeling about the third one. Like, yeah, I'm on board with it 2 years after it launches, because I know that that's the pattern, and that's not a good way to get in people's good graces. I'm surprised that it's not doing well by Activision standards, because it's constantly on the best sold list, but I mean, Call of Duty isn't doing as well as it usually does either, and I think a lot of it has to do with the existence of Fortnite, to be honest, and just the sheer amount of competition that's out there.
I think that what I've been saying and what you've been saying, and we've collectively been saying on the show for a while, is ringing true. I think that competition is going to start squeezing the edges of these games, and that to your point, games, because of the publisher's insistence on supporting things afterwards and kind of making things better and, shining them to a fine sheen, which is great. That's great that they're doing that, but it does feed information to the gamer, like you were saying, that like, well, why would I get involved in something like this now? And why, with the Division, for instance, like the Division is probably better now than it was when I played it, and Destiny 2 is probably better now than people at launch obviously played it. And so I think that this is kind of like roosters coming, or what is it, chickens coming home to roost kind of situation where...
Yeah, roosters coming home to chick.
Yeah, roosters coming home to chicken, et cetera, and so on. It makes you wonder about, what's going on in that regard and, how publishers are going to deal with these kind of very competitive marketplace where, you're dealing with Anthem and you're dealing with the Division 2 and you're dealing with Fortnite and you're dealing with PUBG and you're dealing with Path of Exile and you're dealing with all these games that are maybe disparate and different, but that suck people in for long periods of time, games as platforms. And those who invested the most amount of money first seem to be the ones that are going to lose, because it's the same thing with PUBG, kind of like we said with Battle Royale becoming a ubiquitous thing now. And then, Destiny 2 was really kind of, I don't want to say first, but really at the forefront of the FPS MMO movement that is becoming more popular and more readily, kind of desirable and sex of gamers. So,
honestly, I think the model that Destiny follows and the model that the Division follows and the model that Anthem appears to be following, I think it's dead. I don't think it's something that people are all that interested in, especially with the recent Battle Royale resurgence. It feels like a very 2014 thing to me. I don't know if that's just me but it feels weirdly out of date, especially when, Bungie and Destiny, when it was originally when the inception of it was first around, the idea was like, hey, this is Bungie. They know how to tell good stories in games. Have a good story in an MMO, how? Is that possible? Can you do that? Because right now, the only way that I could see Destiny even coming back to even close to where it was before with Destiny 3 or even, saving itself is having a story that's not just good, because Destiny 2's story was it was good, and Forsaken is good. You need something excellent, like God of War tier, and I just don't think we're going to get that at all, because I don't think you can with the environment that they've set up with this shared world kind of thing where everyone is the best hero ever. Everyone is the main character, so nobody is.
Yeah,
so it's like, what? So what do you?
Very deep.
I don't know what they're doing. I don't know what anybody's doing at this point.
I don't even know what I'm doing. Now, it's true that this does seem to be a little bit antiquated, and I think that because of the long tail of video games and getting them off the ground, and getting them marketed, getting them put out there, and finding audiences, that there's a latency, and we're seeing that with open world games. Like I've been saying, like there's just too many fucking open world games. There's too much bloat. And there's just too much bloat, I agree, in this market. These guys are going to start cannibalizing each other. And I do wonder if any of them at this point, I was saying that they're going to be winners and losers. But to your point, Activision looking at a loss like this at Destiny 2, which has sold many millions of copies and is doing pretty well, I'm sure they invested a lot of money into it. And they've also gotten a lot of critical reception and a lot of goodwill from the audience by, like I said, shining it to a sheen since Destiny 2 came out. But I wonder if any of these guys can win. Because there's just, it's not only Fortnite, that's a problem, but again, there's just too much ubiquity, and then there are still the normal AAA experiences in the open world, action, JRPG, whatever realms. It's getting competitive out there, man. It's really kind of coming back, and I think maybe giving these publishers nightmares about the things that they thought they should invest in, and that's a problem for them.
Yeah, I want Bungie to do something else.
Well, they're under a three-game deal, right, with Activision, and I wonder if they will be clever enough, Activision that is, to let them do something else with that third game as opposed to another Destiny game.
Well, no, because they just said, I think Bungie recently on Twitter said, we're not disappointed with Destiny 2. In fact, they said something about how they want to make Destiny for the people who love it. So it seems like it's just going to keep going the way it is. I don't know. We'll see.
Right. Well, I wonder if they'll rue the day.
Yeah.
Number 3, Red Dead Redemption 2 has continued its powerful sales charge. We already know that the game did $750 million in gross business in 3 days on the market, but now we know that the game, as of November 3rd, sold an incredible 17 million copies. That's 17 million copies in 8 days on the market. Remarkably, with the original Red Dead Redemption having sold some 15 million copies in its lifetime, its sequel outsold it in just over a week. Developer Rockstar and publisher Take-Two have also revealed that Red Dead Online, the online component of Red Dead Redemption 2 that isn't yet active, will go live towards the end of this month, at least in public beta form, according to the publisher's CEO, Strauss Zelnick. While no one knows the exact nature of Red Dead Online as of yet, Grand Theft Auto 5 has been kept alive for so long and so strongly because of Grand Theft Auto Online, which began with that game. So expect it to be a robust and compelling offering.
That is insane. especially when you consider the fact that there's an entire platform that can't get it.
That's what I was telling Erin when I was talking about it, because she was like, are those numbers significant? And I was like, well, put it this way. There are 85, 86, 87 million PS4s, and there are probably 40 million Xbox Ones. So there's probably 120 or 125 million units in the world that can even play this thing. You consider crossover with people that own both, maybe that brings the number to like 105. Almost 20 million of those people have the game. That's a pretty good number.
That's insane.
Yeah.
And there's a bunch of people on PC who want it, but don't have it because it's not out.
They'll certainly get it.
But those numbers are nuts.
Did the original Red Dead Redemption come to PC at all?
I don't know.
I'll look that up.
I don't think so. I think they started bringing games to PC with Grand Theft Auto 5.
Yeah.
I think that was the first, and 4, I guess.
And even then, they weren't day and date. I think Grand Theft Auto 5 launched on PS3 and Xbox 360 first.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's only on PS3 and Xbox 360. Very interesting. Very interesting. Seems a little weird to me.
Yeah, that is odd.
I would put it everywhere. Anyway, number 4. Insomniac's Spider-Man game was billed as having strong post-release support, and it seems they weren't lying. On the back of the launch of The Heist, which Chris played recently, which was the first piece of DLC launched just weeks ago, it looks like the second piece is primed and ready to go. The game itself is teasing the third date of November 20th for the DLC pack called Turf Wars, which along with The Heist and a third piece of future content is wrapped up in a larger DLC offering called The City That Never Sleeps. So next week or this week, depending on when you're listening to this, the second piece of Spider-Man DLC will come out. Brandon Reed wrote into us and said, Dear Colin and Chris, do you think there is any chance that a Spider-Man sequel could include other Marvel characters? I haven't finished the main story yet, but I did do all of the photo ops around the city and saw many references to other Marvel characters. I think it would be a waste to not use this game as a jumping off point to a larger shared universe with other big Marvel characters.
I don't want a whole shared universe thing in video games. I know it's probably an inevitability, especially with Marvel and especially with, just the way comic books are as far as how they spread to different mediums. I don't see a reason why they wouldn't have other characters in the game. Because that'd be cool to see, the Fantastic Four or Daredevil make, cameos and stuff. But I don't necessarily want... I don't want the spotlight taken off of Spider-Man.
Sure.
I think that's why they kind of made cheeky references and not included any characters with the first game. I think that's probably the main reason why. They just wanted to have, a focused story. I guess in the sequel, you have license to kind of go off and do crazy stuff. But I don't know if I want to see, a Daredevil game.
No, I definitely don't want to see that.
I mean?
I definitely don't want to see that. Square Enix did recently update its, what is it, Avengers or Justice League? No, I think it's Avengers. It must be Avengers because Justice League is DC.
Yeah.
So I think it's their Avengers game website, or so there's something going on there where that piece of the puzzle is going to be revealed soon, I think. And I guess we'll find out. That's going to be a multi-platform game, but I think we're going to find out about the nature of their intentions because Spider-Man was obviously the phalanx.
Yeah.
So I think we're going to see, more of that, but, Crystal Dynamics obviously very openly working in the Marvel universe for a while. I everyone knows people that work there on that game, I think. And the Eidos Montreal team, I think, is helping them. They obviously are the ones that did Shadow of the Tomb Raider, for better or for worse. So, I think we'll see more about that soon. But I'm with you. I don't really want to see this crazy shared universe thing, especially if some of the games are exclusive and some of the games can be had anywhere.
Yeah.
And so that's weird. I don't know.
That's the thing, too, the exclusivity where it's imagine if Avengers Infinity War was only available on Blu-ray and you couldn't go see it in theaters.
Right.
It's what?
Yeah, it's weird.
Spider-Man Homecoming 2, now on HD DVD only.
Oh, remember HD DVD? The
Yeah.
format wars?
Oh, man.
The real format war was a VHS beta, of course, but that was a format war, too. I remember that very well.
It's a very swift one.
It was. I remember the HD DVD cases and the add-on for Xbox 360, and I thought that they were going to win for a while. I was surprised that Blu-ray ended up winning that, but hey, whatever. Who cares? By the way, R.I.P. Stan Lee, who died just hours before we were recording this.
Yeah, it's very, very sad.
Very sad news indeed. And
I'd say more about that, but I don't know what I can say that other people haven't already said.
oh,
And I already
say your
tweeted
piece,
about it,
please.
so.
Say your piece.
No, I mean the guy's responsible for building what I consider to be probably the modern pantheon of God. I feel like if humanity goes away right now and we're left completely frozen in this state, evaporated from the world, and then a civilization pops up way later, they're gonna look back at now and they're gonna think we worshipped these characters. They're gonna think oh hey, look, Spider-Man, that must have been one of their gods.
Yeah, they're God Spider-Man.
Yeah, his impact can't be overstated.
And his Lucifer-like foe, Vulture. Number 5. Sony has revealed the best-selling digital games on PlayStation Network for the month of October 2018. The top 10 best-selling digital PS4 games in order were Call of Duty Black Ops 4, Red Dead Redemption 2, Assassin's Creed Odyssey, FIFA 19, Battlefield 1, Spider-Man, NBA 2K19, Soul Calibur 6, Castlevania Requiem, and WWE 2K19. Hey, special shout out to Red Dead, obviously, which is only available for a few days, but also shout out to Castlevania, which was also only available for a few days. People are playing that bad boy, which is great to see. PS Vita's top 10 looks like this in order. God of War Collection, Stardew Valley, Jak and Daxter Collection, Minecraft, Persona 4 Golden, Digimon Story Cyber Sleuth Hacker's Memory, which I know is Chris's favorite game.
Oh, absolutely.
Akiba's Beat, Borderlands 2, Need for Speed Most Wanted, and Full Throttle Remastered. PSVR's list was in order. Astrobot Rescue Mission, which is supposed to be excellent. I got to play that before the year is over. Superhot VR, Job Simulator, Drive Club VR, Rick and Morty Virtual Reality, PlayStation VR Worlds, Firewall 0 Hour, Creed Rise to Glory, Surgeon Simulator, and I Expect You to Die. And finally, the top 10 best-selling PlayStation classics were in order. Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, Bully, Metal Slug Anthology, Resident Evil Code Veronica X, War of the Monsters, Grand Theft Auto Vice City, The Warriors, The King of Fighters Collection, The Orochi Saga, Red Dead Revolver, and Manhunt.
Red Dead Revolver.
Yeah.
Look at that.
People are curious. Number 6. Supermassive Games, the British team behind PS4 exclusive Until Dawn, is apparently still toiling away on some PlayStation exclusives. Word comes by way of website Gamatsu, which has a translation of a portion of a Russian interview with Pete Samuels, the director of the studio. He said the following, quote, "Well, our relationship with Sony is still excellent. We are working on several unannounced PlayStation exclusives. True, it is impossible to talk about them in detail. In general, I really wanted to present our work to the widest possible audience. That is, The Dark Pictures needs to be released on several platforms," end quote. The Dark Pictures, of course, is a previously revealed gaming anthology in the horror and thriller genres that Supermassive is building alongside publisher Bandai Namco, and will appear not only on PlayStation hardware, but elsewhere. So that's good news, because I know that it seemed like the dark horror, what is it called here? The Dark Pictures, the Dark Pictures anthology, seems to be taking influence from Until Dawn, and they thought that they were kind of jumping ship. But I'm still of the theory that we have not seen the last of Until Dawn, and that game couldn't have possibly been that expensive to make. I'm not saying you're going to see those characters again.
Right.
Mr. Robot, or whatever, the main character in that is one of the main characters in Until Dawn. He's probably pretty expensive now. And I'm sure Hayden Panettiere is expensive too. But I think that we're going to get another self-contained horror, AAA horror game from them on PlayStation 4, maybe PlayStation 5. And I think that's great, because Until Dawn is one of the secret kind of hidden gems on the console, man. It really is.
Yeah, no.
Not enough people played that game.
I did not. Everybody kept telling me that I looked like the guy who I'm named after in that game.
You don't, though.
I don't. I know. It's literally any fair-skinned person with glasses and short hair is me. It's like, oh, hey, that's you. Oh, hey, look, you're the son from American Dad. I'm every person with glasses. What do you mean?
Yeah, it's not good. There's more to you than that. There's more to you than glasses.
It triggers me, man. Like, for real.
Some people tweet me every once in a while, hey, this guy looks like you. And often it's not. Sometimes it's not flattering, and oftentimes just I don't see the resemblance at all. You know, but who am I to say?
It's just Vern Troyer.
Hey, Colin, you look just like Vern Troyer. I'll take it. Number 7, believe it or not, PlayStation Now is significantly outpacing its competitors in the space, primarily in the form of Xbox Game Pass and EA Access. This was really surprising to me.
Yeah, no, me
This
too.
news comes by way of Superdata, which notes that the 3 subscription platforms combined accounted for $273 million in fiscal year 2018 for their respective companies, with $143 million of that being earned by PlayStation Now, leaving EA and Microsoft to eat the scraps. Riley Brewer wrote into us and said, hey guys, keep up the fantastic work. It turns out PlayStation Now is much more popular than a lot of people gave it credit for, with 52% of the game subscription market share. Is this the people clamoring for backwards compatibility, or the new PS4 players that never played PS3 games? Where do you think PlayStation under Kenichiro Yoshida will take the subscription in the next 5 years? I'd love to see a more robust lineup of PS1 and PS2 games in this next Netflix-style service. So there's a lot to unpack here. First of all, I was totally wrong about PlayStation Now, I guess from a perspective of how popular it was. It's way more popular than Game Pass, which is surprising to me.
No, that surprised me too. I didn't anticipate that, especially because it sucked for a long time. So I don't know when this happened, when it started being, good.
A thing? It's interesting, Chris, because it must have been before the recently announced thing where they were going to start letting you download games to your console. Mm-hmm. So these numbers are reflective of that, not reflective of that environment, not reflective of the ability to really download native games to your console, which you're able to do now with PS Now if it's a PS4 game. So that's interesting in and of itself, is that even just as a cloud streaming solution for PlayStation 4 gamers, PS Now is doing better. And I guess it's not a huge surprise because EA Access is so limited. EA Access is only available, I think, on PC and Xbox One. And Game Pass is only available on Xbox One. So not a huge surprise that they're outpacing them 52%. But those numbers are much larger than I assumed.
I do think it is very much successful because people want their back catalogs. People want to play the games that are exclusive to that platform. Like, why? Why would you invest
in PlayStation, this storied console with so much to offer, only to not be able to play the overwhelming majority of what people consider to be some of the greatest games ever. Like, it makes no sense. Of course, people want every opportunity to go back.
It's frustrating. And, that what is it? X01, is it X018? Yeah, I don't know how to say it because it's like hashtag X, and I think it's an O or a 018. So I don't know if it's like X. I don't know.
I don't know, whatever.
You know what? I don't really care. But the point I was trying to make is that one of the big announcements there, or a lot of the big announcements were like, well, this is available backwards compatible. This Final Fantasy games are available backwards compatible, etc. And I want to get to a point where that's just not news anymore.
Yeah, well, it shouldn't be news, but unfortunately it is. Even Nintendo, like, you can't play some of the best GameCube games, some of the best NES games, even some of the best NES games. You can't play them on the Switch, and it's like, why? What are you doing?
It's very frustrating.
You know how much people would be on that platform if you gave them that? Hundreds of games automatically available to them with like just some random service. Be amazing.
Yeah, I don't get it, especially with Nintendo, especially because of how easy it is and how they've put their emulators in so many different places on so many different platforms. You think that would just be an easy, here you go. Like, we don't care.
Ugh.
Number 8. NIS America, the American branch of Nippon Ichi Software, has announced that it'll release its final 3 retail Vita games on March 19th, 2019, according to Gamatsu. The 3 releases are Dungeon RPG The Lost Child, Roguelite RPG Penny Punching Princess, and turn-based RPG The Longest 5 Minutes. All 3 of these games already launched on the platform digitally. This is notable, however, as NIS has been one of the most prolific supporters of the Vita platform at a publisher level, particularly early and midway through the handheld's life. Its most notable releases on the platform were in the Danganronpa series, but NIS ended up bringing a ton to the handheld over the years, and this announcement doesn't necessarily preclude them from bringing Vita games to the digital store beyond March of next year. So for people that don't know, Chris, I know we're familiar with this because we've talked about this. Sony has announced that basically as of March of next year, March of 2019, you have to get your orders in for Vita games so that they know that they're manufacturing them. If you don't get your orders in by then, there will be no more retail Vita games after that. So 2019 will be the last year of Vita retail releases, and it's sad and interesting to see NIS, who was such a prolific and consistent and persistent supporter of Vita, announcing that they are finally wrapping things up on the platform as well, which is a sign, I think, of things to come.
Yeah, no, 100%.
And I don't know, I don't see it anywhere. I got some, oh, you know what, there it is. Hold on a sec. So I went to the P.O. Box.
Okay.
I got a P.O. Box that I go to every so often. P.O. Box 1233, Santa Monica, California, 90406. And Stephen Banazak, Banaszak, sent me a Vita. And it's for specifically what I want to do with the Vita Viking Funeral.
Oh, yeah?
So we have, as Chris knows, because I already pitched him on it, I want to do a video. I'll pay Chris to do it. I'll pay others to do it with me when it's time. We're going to do a Viking Funeral for the Vita. And we have one of our Vitas that we can use, and we can shoot a flaming arrow at it somehow. We got to figure all that out.
It's not that hard to light an arrow on fire. Maybe in California it might not be the best idea.
Yeah.
But
Then we're going to accidentally start a terrible forest fire. We got to be very careful.
Can you imagine?
Oh my God, dude.
all of Santa Monica burned down to the ground because of the PlayStation Vita.
Which means life, of course.
Yeah.
It would make sense that the Vita would be responsible for a catastrophe like that. Number 9. Prima Games, the strategy guide company, is officially shuttering. News comes by way of website Publishers Marketplace, which reported that DK, the publisher at the helm of the Prima brand, will shut down entirely in March of next year. Prima was founded in 1990 and combined with its longtime rival Brady Games only 5 years ago in 2013. The two brands published thousands of print strategy guides, as well as online work over the decades, but became more and more antiquated as online connectivity became more and more ubiquitous. We wish all of those affected by this the very best, of course. And Gordon wrote in and said, all praise the mighty C squared. With Prima strategy guides announcing they're shutting down, I felt an unexpected sadness. I grew up reading strategy guides and even read a few of Colin's. How do you all feel about this, and what are some of the other gaming traditions that you miss? Happy Tuesdays all the way from Mississippi. Did you see this news? This actually struck me as a little sad. This is kind of the end of an era.
Yeah, no, it's always sad when something that, has been ubiquitous for such a long time just ceases for what appears to be no reason. I mean, obviously the reason is it's very antiquated. But the fact that it's happening now and not a few years ago even, or I feel like even in 2010, people weren't really all that into strategy guides, physical strategy guides anyway. So it's surprising to me that it didn't go out of business or this didn't happen back then. So the fact that it's happening now is kind of sad, because you get the sense that, if it's not happening then, maybe they'll be around for ages, And I guess that's not the case, and it sucks.
It does suck, and it's peculiar too, because of the very fact that they held on for so long that
Yeah.
you thought that they would have they figured it out. They figured out their little niche, because there are people, if you read around on Amazon or read Twitter, like some people, there's a small subset of people that like to go get guides and read them in person. And I used to get guides in the 90s and early 2000s, even though there were other things available to me. And I obviously started writing strategy guides, and that's how I got into the video game industry, long ago. But it is sad because it's just, strategy guides are so bastardized today. It's all YouTube videos and stuff. And there are some YouTube videos that I like. Like, I like PS4 trophies a lot. I'm friends with that guy. He's great. Where it shows you like very specific things, how to get this trophy or whatever. But this idea of using video walkthroughs like for entire games is so fucking stupid that I can't imagine. Like, it's basically saying like, watch someone do this
And then do it.
and then do it yourself, as opposed to like reading a little bit about it and then doing it. And it just totally killed the game. It killed the GameFAQs, killed IGN guides and all the strategy guide sites as well. So I don't know, man. Like I'm, as an old strategy guide writer, I wrote 94 strategy guides in my career. It's a sad kind of thing, but I'm also responsible for, I guess, in my own way, the death of these guides, because I wrote them for online outlets that were available for free. So sorry about that.
Are there any other gaming traditions though?
Oh, gaming
That you would
traditions.
want-
Sorry,
like-
you always
like-
remind me of the stinger that I never.
Yeah, there's
I
actually
never
a
answered.
Question here, Colin.
I know. I'm so bad at this.
I miss midnight releases, which are obviously going to stop as soon as everything goes digital. And like basic stuff like couch co-op, I'm going to miss quite a bit. I'm already feeling that.
No, video games are always at the forefront of technology, or always at the forefront of pushing things, pushing boundaries. And so it's not a surprise that things come and go. Good things stay, bad things go. Mediocre things kind of mull around for a little while. So gaming's so much easier and more streamlined. We don't have to use memory cards anymore. We're not putting batteries in our controllers.
there's no more
There's
passwords.
Exactly, passwords. And I used to in the NES day, I used to paranoid write down passwords and then immediately put the game back in to check the passwords so that I knew if it actually worked. And then if I wrote it down
I
wrong,
would do the same thing.
I wouldn't have to carry that with me. This assumption that it actually worked because the O was a 0 or something like that. The kids will never know. Number 10. This is a wrap up. Website Gamatsu reports that JRPG Death End Request is coming to Western PS4s on February 19th of 2019. JRPG Dragon Star Varner, which I know Chris is really looking forward to, is coming to Western PS4s in the spring of 2019. And JRPG Arc of Alchemist is coming to Western PS4s in the summer of 2019. Acclaimed VR game Beat Saber is coming to PSVR on November 20th. No, Chris is excited about that. Website Gamatsu reports that Dragon Quest XI Echoes of an Elusive Age has passed 4 million in global sales, which is huge for the old school JRPG franchise. Congratulations, boys. And finally, as reported a few weeks ago via a game rating leak in Korea, it looks like PUBG is indeed PS4 bound and may be available as soon as
how
early
exciting.
December.
Exciting. Aren't you excited?
I'm sure everyone's really excited about that. I've never played it.
It's not good.
It's not a good game. Sorry. But hey, facts.
Did you see the statistic that half of Nintendo Switches have downloaded Fortnite? Half.
That's not surprising.
That's a lot, man.
I mean, yeah, but it is also like a console that is aimed younger, and Fortnite is most definitely a game that is skewed younger. So it's sad. Don't get me wrong. I am sad. I am writhing right now. But hey, this is the life
But
we
you're
chose.
keeping it on the inside, which
Yeah.
I respect. I appreciate
I
that.
lock it up like a demon. But just before we go on to the next game releases,
Yeah, please.
if you have a PSVR, by all means, Beat Saber, get it. Absolutely, 100%. You must. That's all I'm saying.
I'm going to get it. I'm taking your advice. I'm going to get it.
I think you'll be very, very happy.
I need something to play on PSVR.
Provided the port is good. I hope the port is good.
I'm sure it is. I'm sure it'll be just fine.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to playing it as soon as I get through Red Dead Redemption 2, whenever that happens.
In 6 years.
Oh my God, dude. All right, let's get into the new games this week. We got a letter that I wanted to preempt with this week, Chris. Ian wrote into us and said, I look forward to every Tuesday. It does me good to see you boys. My question is this. What the fuck is with all the Friday releases lately? Is it just me or is every other game dropping on a Friday? Red Dead, Castlevania, a whole shitload of them have been Friday releases. I'm trying to kill Dracula on Tuesday, dog. Friday. That's what he said.
Yeah.
Anyway, have a good day. I sacrificed a baby in your honor. Thank you for writing in, Ian. This is true. Friday releases used to be more of an exception to the rule and were typically for global releases because games come out on different days in different places. And I think the Friday release is now trying to kind of universalize digital release schedules. Games are often available in Australia first and move from there. So I think Friday releases are trying to encapsulate that, and I wouldn't be surprised if everything moved to Friday eventually. Tuesdays, of course, are the traditional game release day otherwise.
Yeah, I thought that was weird too. But
Well, we said last week, I'm not even reading that anymore because so many games are just coming out on random days. So These are the games that are coming out sometime this week. That's what we'll say.
Oh, can I get this first one?
Oh, please.
Chimp Party comes to PS4. Launch, wobble, jump, and rotate your chimps using simple and intuitive one-button controls. One-button control. Just download the free Chimp Party app and use your smartphone or tablet as a controller. Chimp Party is the newest addition to the PlayLink range of games for PS4. So that's like a Jackbox kind of deal?
I guess.
Chimp
We're never going to find out, so I don't know.
Oh, boy.
Emerald Shores comes to PS4. Emerald Shores is a challenging 16-bit platformer with a bunch of twists. Level up, take on rewarding side quests, play unique minigames, unlock secret levels, raise a pet monster, fight an optional mega-leveled beast of a boss, and more.
Fallout 76 comes to PS4 at retail. Bethesda Game Studios welcomes you to Fallout 76, the online prequel where every surviving human is a real person. Work together, or not, to survive. Under the threat of nuclear annihilation, experience the largest world ever created in Fallout.
That's another one. We should get codes for that any minute. So that's another one we can add to the list of games that I'm never going to play probably because there's no time. Gnome's Garden New Home comes to PS4. Gnome's Garden New Home, a continuation of the exciting fantasy strategy game about the world of gnomes.
Oh.
Obtain the Crystal of Eternal Light and return prosperity.
The Crystal of Eternal Light. It's beautiful.
Beautiful.
Hitman 2 comes to PS4 at retail. Travel the globe and track your targets across exotic sandbox locations in Hitman 2. From sun-drenched streets to dark and dangerous rainforests, nowhere is safe from the world's most creative assassin, Agent 47, in the ultimate spy thriller story.
We've got it. Don't know when I'm going to get to it.
I haven't even downloaded it yet.
We'll probably have to rely on Chris to tell us what's going on with that.
I'll let you know.
Just Deal With It, which is the story of my life, comes to PS4. Just Deal With It on PS4 with PlayLink delivers, this is another PlayLink game, delivers a whole new twist on 5 classic card games locally or online. Team up with friends and family, launch attacks, sabotage the competition, or go all in for the win in this joyous card game party. All right, so team up with friends and family, launch attacks, sabotage the competition in this joyous card game party. Okay, doesn't sound very joyous.
Nothing's more joyous than sabotaging your friends and family. Awesome. Knowledge is Power, Decades comes to PS4. Who will be the first to scale the pyramid of knowledge? Put your pop culture knowledge to the test in this high-energy quiz game show featuring thousands of entertainment-themed questions spanning the last 4 decades.
I do like a good quiz show.
That does not sound like the game. Like the title of that does not sound at all like what it is.
Yeah, what is it called? Knowledge is Power, Decades. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know anything about that.
Yeah.
I would tell you I'd download it and play it, but that's a lie. I'm lying directly to your face. The Long Journey Home comes to PS4. When mankind's first experimental drive goes wrong, you and your crew find yourself trapped on the wrong side of the galaxy. The only way back leads through the vast unknown of outer space. One destination. Endless adventures. Ooh.
Look at that. Mars Chaos Menace comes to PS4. Humanity is terraforming Mars, but chaos and destruction threaten the planet. Battle your way through innumerable hordes of enemies that wish to destroy you and face the most terrible and powerful monsters in the galaxy.
Don't mind if I do. Monkey King Master of the Clouds comes to PlayStation 4. Join Michael Chang, the Monkey King, on his journey through the famous landmarks of ancient China and fight off mythical creatures and legends in this classic arcade shooter. Never heard of it.
I love generic names like that. Like David Stevenson in this epic adventure, Clash of the Monkey Kings.
My Riding Stables comes to PS4. Make your dreams come true on the stud farm near the old mill. Renovate your own riding school. Look after your horses and tend the cute little foals, as well as wonderful hacks working in the stables and caring for the horses. You'll have plenty of other exciting things to do.
My first job ever was at a stable.
Was it really?
Yeah, really was.
What the hell? What?
Yeah.
Aren't you from Long Island?
Yeah.
Is there stables in Long Island?
We have horses on Long Island there. There are horses about. Yeah.
I guess I see horses every now and then in Manhattan. I guess that's where they're coming from.
We are feeding New York City its horses.
That's always a jarring experience, by the way, seeing a horse in Manhattan, like modern day Manhattan. It's like, what is happening?
Taking enormous dumps. They're always pooping. They're always shitting. Oh, including my horses in Red Dead Redemption.
It's a cry for help.
Project High Rise comes to PS4. A skyscraper is more than just steel and glass. It's an intricate ecosystem full of people that live and work in the building. They become a complex machine that needs your steady hand to keep it running smoothly and efficiently.
It's pretty straightforward. The Quiet Man comes to PS4. Unraveling within a single night, players take the role of deaf protagonist Dane as he fights his way through a soundless world to discover the motives behind the kidnapping of a songstress from a mysterious masked man. Did this get pushed?
I think that the embargo was just early, but I think it's now finally out because people had been talking about it for a little while, but I could be wrong.
I could have sworn I read that exact thing on a drop before.
We've read many of these things before.
Weird.
The unfortunate thing is, unlike last week with Nekopara, whatever that was called, they didn't add anything to it for us to read. So
yeah,
no new fun, exciting insights into The Quiet Man. Runner 3 comes to PlayStation 4. The rhythm music gameplay of a Bit Trip Runner and Runner 2 is back. The Timble Tot is determined to rid the multiverse of all of its love and happiness. Commander Video is ready to jump, double jump, wall jump, slide, kick, float, drive, fly, and dance his way to victory.
Damn, that's a lot of verbs.
He's ready to verb.
That's a great tagline. Slayaway Camp Butcher's Cut comes to Vita.
Whoa.
Look at that. A killer puzzle game where you control Skullface, an adorably demented murderer, across hundreds of isometric puzzle levels in a darkly comic homage to 80s horror movies.
All right. Spyro Reignited Trilogy finally comes to PS4 and is available at retail. The original Roastmaster is back. I was reading that. I'm like, whoa, I'm reading the wrong one. I'm reading a comedy thing here. No, this is the original Roastmaster. Same sick burn, same smoldering attitude, now all scaled up in stunning HD. There's a lot of double entendres in this.
Yeah.
Rekindle the fire with the original 3 games, Spyro the Dragon, Spyro 2 Ripto's Rage, and Spyro Year of the Dragon. Man, that's a lot of Roastmaster, same sick burn, smoldering attitude, scaled up, rekindle the fire.
I like it.
Whew.
I like that description, honestly.
It's not bad.
It's
not
very
bad.
it feels very old school. It feels like one of those ads where it's like you're really cool if you have Spyro. You're an epic dude.
No one's ever said that about Spyro.
Swords and Soldiers 2 Schwarmageddon?
Yeah, that's what it says.
Comes to PS4. Take command of mighty Vikings, sly Persians, or brutish demons. Smash your opponent's base to rubble while defending your own in this action-packed, side-scrolling strategy game.
I remember Swords and Soldiers a little bit, but I don't think I liked it very much. On PS3, I want to say. Ticket to Ride comes to PS4. Hop on a train with your friends and family and set off to conquer the railways. Who will be the fastest to set up links between cities and achieve their objectives? Explore the strategies in this iconic board game and get ready to connect more than cities. I don't know that I want to connect more than that, but I appreciate it.
Word Hunters comes to PS4. Dive into a whole new world of competitive word games with your guide, Amy the Aviator. Use the free Word Hunters smart device app as a game controller to compete in 15 party play word games suitable for the whole family.
It's a lot of games this week.
Smart device, come on. Like we all know what
we get it.
We
get it. I would say that obviously Spyro is going to be interesting to people.
The Quiet Man,
Hitman 2, Fallout 76.
There's actually some considerable releases.
Yeah, definitely. You're definitely right about that, Chris. And I'm going to give a shout out, of course, to My Riding Stables, which has Game of the Year potential. I'm just making that up, by the way. Please do not take it seriously.
I like how everything you say sounds sarcastic. That's very true, Chris.
I can't help it.
I know, no, I totally understand.
I can't help it.
My family's like full of those people. It's like you can't tell what the hell's going on.
Chris, let's end as we always do.
With some reader mail?
With reader mail.
Yeah.
We inexplicably call reader mail. This is a podcast, but you're sending your questions in. We're reading them, so we're calling them reader mail. And remember, you can only submit reader mail, questions, comments, concerns, thoughts, and ideas if you support us on Patreon at patreon.com/ColinsLastStand. Otherwise, it's as if you're not saying anything at all. And that's the unfortunate reality of the situation. You know?
Yeah. You have no voice.
I can't hear you. I just can't hear you. Brett Medlock wrote in and said, do you think we'll ever get a new Final Fantasy Tactics game? Are you a fan of the Final Fantasy Tactics series, Chris?
Nah.
It's too Japanese for you?
What's the difference between Final Fantasy Tactics and a normal because I haven't even seen it.
Oh, really?
I straight up don't know what it is.
That's fucking unbelievable to me.
Is it really?
Oh, that's unbelievable. So Final Fantasy Tactics is a grid-based, turn-based strategy role-playing game.
Oh, it's like an Oh, okay.
Yeah,
So it's like isometric?
Yeah.
Okay, I've definitely seen it then.
It's excellent. Excellent.
I don't know. The last isometric game I played was like Bastion.
Yeah, Bastion,
which is a great game.
Yeah, Bastion's
but like
great.
that was
Different.
That was one of my only forays into that. Like I'm not that big on those kinds of like especially turn-based. Like I don't know, it takes a lot for me to get sucked into a turn-based game. I think Child of Light was the last turn-based game that I got really sucked into, and even then that didn't last all that long. So I mean, when was the last tactics game released?
2005, I want to say.
Oof.
There's one on Game Boy Advance and one on DS.
Okay, so I wouldn't hold your breath. Is what.
It's unfortunate because it's a very popular game, and they released it PSP. Well, actually, technically, I guess War of the Lions came to PSP, I think, in 2007. Which
Is it on mobile too?
Yeah, it's on mobile. We don't count that, of course. I was going to say, now that you have your Vita, you can play the PS1 classic of it or the PSP iteration, War of the Lions. They're both really cheap. I really feel like you might be underestimating these games.
I 100% am aware. I know for a fact that there are a bunch of games that like are objectively great that I just have not bothered to give the time of day. I just have to like find that time. Maybe when I'm old and curmudgeonly and like slowly dying and my bones are collapsing into dust, into brittle dust when I'm in a retirement home
and whatnot. Yeah,
when I'm like 32. Maybe then I'll have the time to just sit and go through everything that I know for a fact I'm missing.
Do you ever feel like you're getting senile?
Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
I feel like I'm senile right now, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm a little senile.
I don't know what's going on.
I'm starting to structure my days around weird things like, when rotisserie chickens are available at Vons. I tweeted that out before. I also have a strange admission that I'm going to let you in on right now.
Okay.
So, have you ever taken a shit so catastrophic that you have to take a shower when you're done?
No.
That's never happened to you?
No.
Okay. So that happens to me once in a while, where I'm
Once in a while.
like where I work from home. There's no reason not to just, I'm like, I'll wipe and then, go and take a shower and just make sure everything's okay.
Yeah.
And I'm a huge fan of showering and bathing, and I don't mean that in a facetious way. Like, I look forward to my shower every day, and I take a lot of baths at night. So I'm usually in the water twice a day. Yeah. And what I'm realizing now is that there's some sort of Pavlovian response to when I'm shitting where I automatically think of the shower. And I'm just using it as an excuse now to take an extra shower a day, even though there's no need to do it.
That does sound certifiably insane.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
I really probably should, get out of this apartment at some point.
Hey, I have no help to offer you.
Corey Burns wrote in and saying, "Greetings, Colin and Chris. With the holiday, what's so funny?"
I hope that answered your question.
Oh,
dude.
I don't. With the holidays fast approaching, I think back to when I was younger and would do anything to escape family so that I could play more video games. Have either of you gone to great lengths to avoid family around the holidays so that you can keep gaming? Keep up with the great work.
No. I've never done that in my life, I don't think.
You don't avoid your family?
No.
The last time I would even think about a game as being that important was like when I was a kid and I had all the time in the world to play them anyway. Now I barely have time to play games because of the work that I have to do.
I don't remember ever avoiding family to allow myself to play games.
Yeah,
It's
it seems like a harsh kind of question because I'm not avoiding my family either when I play games around them. But I do remember that, I guess it was 2013 when Zelda Link Between Worlds came to DS or 3DS.
Yeah.
That, I was home for Christmas. My dad was going to his girlfriends and their family. And I was like, you know what, you guys go. I'm going to stay home and just play this all day. So that's about as close as I can think of. But I just wanted some solitude from people. But generally, I don't need video games for that excuse.
Yeah, no, exactly. Like I feel like the closest I ever came to that was like maybe there was one New Year's where, and this is kind of inexplicable to me why I did this, but a bunch of my friends on one New Year's Eve decided to just go on Phantasy Star Universe online and just like see what kinds of people were playing this really obscure MMO on a holiday were like, and it was a mess. It was just like a bunch of people like spamming like, hey, hot girls here, get nudes. And it's like, what the heck is going on? But I rejoined the party, like, obviously. Like, I wasn't sitting there, like, on, like, when the ball dropped. But I wanted to see who was playing that game on a holiday.
We'll probably reapproach this question as we get closer to the end of the year. But doesn't it feel like it's fake New Year's out here? It's not real New Year's out here.
Oh, that's why I go back every New Year's.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Because I'm out here, it's like 9 p.m. and the ball drops, and then they have their own little ball now, and I'm like, that's cute. Yeah. But it's over. It's over now. It's New Year's is over.
Yeah, I mean, for those who do, and there's no reason why you should know, but for those of you who don't, I typically go back to New York every New Year's. It's just a tradition. I have not spent a New Year's out of New York, so I figured, I'll just keep it going.
Well, I've spent many a New Year outside of New York, but
yeah,
I don't know.
I like the cold.
I do too.
I like it. I like getting off the plane and like being hit with that. It's like,
It is nice.
This is what the planet is like.
It is nice. I will be going out east to see my family before Christmas this year, which is nice because I can, free up a little time. I don't have to travel around that time. Will Selfridge wrote into us and said, "Hey guys, quick question. I just saw on Reddit that the city of Chicago is implementing a 9% amusement tax that will affect gamers in the Windy City. What are your thoughts on this tax specifically? And do you think we're going to see more taxes like this going forward into the coming years and next generation of the consoles after that? Keep doing God's work, you too." So I don't know if you saw this, Chris.
I did.
So I didn't put it in the news because it seems very localized. But for people that don't know, in the city of Chicago, they have instituted an amusement tax of 9% on like video rentals and movie rentals. So this isn't counting towards video game purchases and DLC purchases, etc., microtransactions. But if you try to rent something off of PSN or something like that, then you're charged this extra tax. And people have been messaging me about it. And so apparently the big controversy is that Sony's kind of just accepting it, or it seems to be accepting it, while its brethren, Netflix and Amazon and everyone, are fighting this tooth and nail.
Yeah.
So the reason that I'm not reporting on it, and the reason, who wrote this in, Will, that I'm not too worried about it is I assume that this is going to get wrapped up in court and that people that care more, that have more money, like Netflix, are going to kill this, because that's a huge tax.
Yeah, and it's also ridiculous. Taxing amusement is hilarious to me. Like, that sounds like a joke. Like, actually, for real. It sounds like a comedy sketch.
I'm just sick of all of the taxes generally. How many taxes? People don't think about this. I don't want to get too political here, okay? But I'm going to. And you're just going to have to fucking deal with it. Think about this.
Yeah.
In California, a normal person might pay 25%, 28%. And these are marginal rates before your income tax returns and stuff, but 25, 28% federal tax, and then maybe another 6 or 7%, 8% state tax. And then you're paying like 8, 9, 10% sales tax and gasoline tax and all these taxes. And before you know it, you're literally losing half of your money or more to this stuff. It's outrageous. When people just, outrageous. Dude, I've said so many times on my shows over the years to younger people that like kind of don't understand this. I'm like, hit me up when you get your first pay stub. And you look at it, hit me up. And over the years, people have remembered and have messaged me and been like, "You're absolutely right." Horrifying. Just horrifying. And it's like, here's how much money you made. And then we're going to take all of this.
It is frustrating.
Yeah.
For me, it's like, I don't mind it, but it's especially egregiously annoying when you can't see anything that's being done with it. Like, where I used to live in Glendale, the road was literally not existing. Like, it had craters in it. It looked like the surface of the moon.
It's like Red Dead Redemption.
And I learned this the hard way when I was like skating, because I used to skate a little bit. I was skating down the street just to go to Ralph's to pick some stuff up, and I dipped into this crater and like did like a triple helix flip onto the ground, like caved my skull in. Had to get it. That's a lie.
He lied about that last part. He lied about that last part.
No, it's like, where's the money going?
Bombs.
Yeah.
It's incredibly frustrating. I don't want to harp on it too long other than to say that I can't believe anyone just stands by and lets this happen. Like, let's just wholesale fucking robbery happen time and time again for years and decades.
I don't mind it if it's being done and we're getting something out of it.
We're not getting anything out of it, so I'm tired of it. I'm tired of it.
Follow at no taxation.
Abdiel Mendez wrote into us and said, "Hello, Colin and Chris. When it comes to the subject of price for games, it seems that some tend to blame the consumer or at least express some disappointment in the fact that they want their games to stay cheap. I've heard you make this argument, and don't get me wrong, I'm a huge fan of yours, that gamers' expectations are high and it's expensive for developers to meet them. Personally, I think that's BS. If it isn't viable for a developer to make a state-of-the-art AAA game, why would they risk it? And if they do because they're such brave risk-taking pioneers, then they should understand and accept the reality that risk might not pay off. Look at Nintendo and how they scaled down since the Wii generation as an example. Before the question, I wanted to explain where I'm coming from because the context is important to understand what I'm looking for. I don't have a problem spending $60, $70, or $100 on a game as long as it's worth it to me. But here's the question. Why shouldn't the consumer want the best possible product for the lowest, most fair price, possible price? Long live capitalism, and God bless America." I don't disagree with anything you're saying there. I simply say that the expectation generally is driving the race to the bottom. It's making margins thinner than they should be and making games more dangerous to develop than they should be. Every capitalistic endeavor is a risk. CLS is a risk. Sacred Symbols is a risk. Hitman 2 is a risk. But to me, I feel like, I think we're talking past each other here. It's not fair to expect that a $60 game is going to deliver the experience that most people want today when game prices 7 years ago were $60, delivering a cheaper and much less impressive experience at a lower cost. it's just weird to me. Money and buying power is diminishing over time, so the price must adjust to that, like it does for everything. You're not buying 25-cent hot dogs anymore. You're not buying 99-cent gallons of milk because prices go up because of inflation and all those kinds of things. And games aren't going up in price, even though your expectations for pasteurized milk is the same now as it was 100 years ago. Your expectation for a $60 game is not the same as it was 5 years ago, and something must adjust to meet, that difference in expectation.
I just have to echo that, I guess. I don't have anything else to add to that. That was good.
You wouldn't.
Got him.
Now people are starting to message me saying that I would do things.
Yeah, you would.
And I feel like you're using my weapon against
I'm
me.
not doing anything.
I'm not saying you. I mean the royal you.
Oh, the royal you. I don't like that term either.
No, I don't like it.
Royal you.
I don't know how else to say it though.
Yeah, but it's like the worst possible decision to make. It's like, oh, we'll just make that the royal you. Is there a royal we? Is there a royal I?
I don't know. That's a good question.
Whatever.
That's a good question. What was it I was talking about the etymology of something yesterday? Fuck. It was so interesting. I was talking to Aaron about like where did this term come from, and I can't remember it. And we just didn't look it up because I would rather not know.
You just like, I need to shield myself. I need to remain ignorant on this.
It's one of those things where I'm, like, look a gift horse in the mouth, right? Like that comes from the fact that you would study a horse's mouth and study his teeth because that was an indication of how healthy and old he was, right? So like that's where that gets. So if someone's gifting you a horse, you don't look it in the mouth because it's rude,
Right.
to like judge it. That's where that comes from. Oh, it's actually not that funny, but it was on the wagon, off the wagon for alcoholics.
Yeah.
And I'm like, is the wagon life? Is that what that means? If you're off the wagon, does that mean that the wagon is moving forward without you and you've gotten drunk and fallen off the wagon?
This is literally a Seinfeld thing, by the way.
That's what we were saying. And I didn't get a satisfactory answer out of that either. You do want to be on the wagon, though, right? Or do you want to be off the wagon?
I believe on the wagon is the good thing.
Okay. And the wagon, because she was saying the wagon is representative of sobriety. So you have to opt in to the wagon.
Yeah, you have to get on the wagon.
But my thing was that we are all on the wagon until we are no longer on the wagon. The wagon is moving. The wagon is life, man. That's my interpretation of it.
This is the worst thing I've ever heard.
And I'm not looking it up.
I'm going to look it up.
Emil Catborg wrote in and said, "Hey, Colin and Chris, big fan of the show. In your opinion, are there any genres or styles of games or studios to make them lacking in the PlayStation lineup? Now when Microsoft have purchased Obsidian, where should Sony go next? Do they need to further strengthen their first-party family or simply keep at it?" So this was a major announcement at this XO18, or I don't know how to say it.
Yeah, they got Obsidian.
Obsidian and In Exile, the guys that make Wasteland, they bought 2 studios, and they're both role-playing game studios. Now, my theory about this acquisition is that one of them is going to be put onto Fable. So you can expect that one of them is going to take over that franchise, I assume. And so the other will, and that would probably be In Exile. I think that's more up their alley. And then the other will make something AAA, next Xbox role-playing game. But those are big moves. And obviously the Obsidian move was rumored last month by Jason Schreier at Kotaku. He was right. This is getting serious in my perspective. And I was really surprised by how few people were really hyped up about Xbox's announcements of these. Because I'm like, this is becoming an impressive first-party family of studios. You're going to have to wait again. But these guys are all going to start releasing games in 3, 4, 5 years, one after the other, in a very impressive way. And I do think if you're Sony, you have to look at it and be like, we might need to start investing like this again because we're starting to look a little chumpish. And that's, my interpretation of it. I don't know if people agree with that. I know that the games speak. Spider-Man was huge. God of War was huge. Xbox doesn't have anything like that. And they're not going to have anything like that, in this generation. But they are preparing for something big. And I don't know how you can look at that and not be
think
excited.
a lot of people kind of read it as desperate, which is fair because a lot of this generation has been spent kind of under Sony's heel. And I think a lot of people are looking at these moves in a way that's a little bit more superficial. And they're looking at it as like, oh, hey, look at how desperate they are. They're like trying to get like new studios. But it's like, that's not a bad thing. Like, it's a good thing that they're doing this because it means we're going to get some good stuff. I'm really happy as somebody who owns everything because I'm pumped for this. This is great.
I think it's great. I think Microsoft's moves continue to impress me, and they continue to put Sony on their heels, whether they realize it or not, because I'm telling you, I just feel like you're going to see a big swing.
But hey, listen, PS Now is doing like super well. And the games obviously speak for themselves this generation. I don't know what we're going to see of a next generation Xbox, but I mean, these moves they're good moves, I think.
I would like to see Sony start making acquisitions. Sony has not acquired a studio.
They need a multiplayer.
Yes.
They need some foothold in that.
I agree.
Because as of right now, like, I mean, you can trot out, the fact that Halo is very old and like, it's not as big as it used to be. It's still a huge multiplayer driving force on that console. Like a lot of people are playing that game, and it is storied, and it's the legacy of that system. It does help to have a multiplayer kind of centric experience. And granted, I think that franchise has gotten a little too multiplayer centric because the story was horrendous since Bungie left. But, it would be wise of Sony, I think, to dabble in that.
Absolutely, and I expect that they will do that. But in thinking back about it, Chris, I could be wrong about this. But I think Sony has not bought a studio since 2009 when they bought Sucker Punch. And they've actually shed a bunch of studios. They've founded a few small ones like Northwest Studio and these XDev initiatives, but nothing major, nothing really, no offense, important. And there are studios out there. Obsidian was one of the really big ones that was somehow remaining independent. And, they had worked with THQ and Ubi and Bethesda and everyone, but, they were staying afloat. And I look around and I'm like, I don't even know what they would buy at this point or what they would want other than Quantic Dream, other than we mentioned Supermassive would be another acquisition. But, they probably look at it and say, you know what, like, we don't need to do this. Like, look what we got out of Spider-Man and Ratchet and Clank out of Insomniac. We don't own them. But then again, I'm pretty much positive that Sony has made overtures to Insomniac in the past to purchase them. And, I just don't know if having a robust first-party family of studios matters as much as having first-party games. And those are kind of different things. We conflate the term first party and second party sometimes. Quantic Dream is technically second party. Detroit is not a first party game. It's a first party published game, and we kind of look at that, but Quantic Dream isn't owned by them. So I think that they're kind of happy being in that space because it might be cheaper and certainly lower risk because, as I've said, they've shut down Evolution, they've shut down Cambridge, they've shut down all of these studios. I think Media Molecule could be next, unfortunately, if Dreams doesn't hit. And so they might be looking at it in terms of like, let them eat the cost. We've been down this road. We had at one time 16 studios.
Yeah.
And ate shit.
And they're also doing super well right now because not a single game that they've put out has been even close to subpar.
Right. I agree.
So,
I agree.
I mean, what reason would they have to make any moves if they already have so many studios working with them on stuff that might not be ready for a while, but like they've also got the goodwill of the majority of the audience, I think.
I think so too. I think you're right about that.
I think they're banking on that to carry them. And I think that may or may not be a mistake.
I think it's a mistake. Just because I don't want Sony to feel like they're in a position, and I don't think they're going to be, where they have to go tit for tat. They look at this and they're like, all right, our major competitor just, since E3, has acquired 7 studios. Actually acquired 6 and made 1, right? So in the initiative down here in Santa Monica. So they have 7 new studios that weren't here last year or that were doing other things. And that not only takes a slate of some good studios off the block in terms of bringing their games forward, like we're never going to get an Exile game or an Obsidian game. We're never going to get a Ninja Theory game. We're never going to get those ever again, and that's kind of weird in some ways. Like Ninja Theory, that's weird because Heavenly Sword is a PlayStation 3 exclusive from Ninja Theory. We're never going to see them ever again.
Yeah.
And Sony might want to look around and be like, who can we do? Who can we get? I think From Software and keeping that relationship tight is good. That game Derasine or whatever it's called apparently might be a reference to Bloodborne 2. I don't know if you were seeing those theories. And so maybe there's something going on there. Maybe Sony can continue to kind of incubate things out of their Japan studio like they did with Team Ico. They have their XDev initiatives in San Diego and in London. So I look around the landscape and I'm like, I don't see any unencumbered big studios that they could acquire where they would, you can go buy Rocksteady or something like that, assuming that they weren't in a deal with WB, which they are. But you can go buy that. But how much is that going to cost you? And what are you going to get out of that? Because you're not going to be able to use their big IP. You're not going to be able to use Batman. So are you going to get a studio that's not going to deliver the requisite money? There's a weird balancing act that they have to do here. And I'm a little afraid for them, actually, because this looks like a mirror image, indeed, of the situation that they were in, where their games are coming out now, but with no PSX, no big announcements. We only know about the 4 games coming out. They seem very silent. Hopefully they have a big explosive showing at E3 that will invigorate us, because I'm kind of down on Sony right now. And I know that's weird because like you said, the games are good. That's what matters. The games are good. The games are good.
Yeah, and we haven't seen anything out of these other studios from Microsoft. Like all we know is that they've been acquired, getting set up. So I mean, I think a lot of people are looking at that. Like we're not seeing much that speaks for what we're going to see out of Microsoft. All we're seeing is the potential.
Right.
Which is good and it's promising, but it's still just potential. Whereas Sony, we have, maybe not as much, but we've seen what the outcome is. We've seen, the product of that potential. And I think that's why people are I don't know.
I get that.
Yeah.
We'll
We'll see.
And I don't buy into hype. I hate overexcited. I'm not trying to say that about Microsoft. I'm just looking at their situation over the last 18 months to 2 years and being like, and we actually said it, I think some episodes ago, actually, Chris, where I was like, I don't know where it's going to go, but I don't know what else you can possibly want from them right now. You know, like, I don't know what else you could possibly want from these guys.
Yeah. They're making all the right moves.
They certainly
For
are.
sure.
And Sony is so quiet that it's going to come to a head for them, where they're going to have a massive big showing to get, because if this continues, I just don't, right. People jump, like you made the point, a great point, a salient point. People jumped nonchalantly from Xbox 360 to PS4, and they will jump just as nonchalantly from PS4 to Xbox, whatever. So that's a risk. And I don't know. Maybe I'm too cautious.
I think silence is a virtue,
especially in a landscape where hype is the main thing that everybody's like, oh, we got to get something out, so people are hyped. Oh, we got to announce Elder Scrolls 7 like 20 years in advance, you know what I mean? I don't view Sony's silence as quite too negative yet, because we're still seeing stuff come out from them. We still have Spider-Man, which is like super recent. We've got Days Gone just around the corner. We've got Last of Us coming up. We've got, obviously, Death Stranding. Ghost of Tsushima. Yep. We still have stuff to look forward to. So until that dries up, I don't think that there's that much reason for concern.
Fair enough. 3 more questions, Chris, before we wrap it up. Caleb Hager wrote into us and said, "Tally ho, lads, had an idea for a game I wanted to run by you."
Tally ho, jeez.
That always reminds me of Final Fantasy IV with the dwarves underground. They always say tally ho. What if Sony were to bring back Twisted Metal as a Battle Royale style game? Hear me out. Okay, that's it.
No.
He says, hear me out. Part of the turnoff, in my opinion, for the old games is the dead time trying to find enemies. With 100 vehicles, the action would be a lot more nonstop. I know the Sony multiplayer game topic has been looming on the podcast, and Sony could bring back an IP they own and people recognize. He's referencing, of course, that we've talked about MAG and SOCOM, which I think are 2 ones that MAG as a Battle Royale game would be really smart, and SOCOM would be smart to bring back because of Siege and all those games. So that's what he's referencing, I think. There's so many characters' vehicles available, with them also being able to make everyone more like Fortnite skins. While it's not colorful and bright like Fortnite, it still has a lot of substance. I'm fine with Twisted Metal being over with, but I think this is the only way it could return and be successful. Would love to hear your opinions on this. Love the show, and keep up the great work. I actually think this is a great idea. I think this is a great idea.
Twisted Metal Battle Royale?
Yeah. It's different. It's a vehicular combat Battle Royale game, so at least it's not Sony because you damn well know that Sony's going to come out with some fucking Battle Royale game, proprietary Battle Royale game that no one's going to care about. But at least this would be a different kind of something, you know?
Yeah. I guess I can't. Man, I just want this ride to be over, and it doesn't look like it's ever stopping. But it's not the worst idea. I think Twisted Metal as a franchise, like I just don't know. I don't know if it really has that much name recognition anymore at all. You might as well just make something entirely new, almost like a spiritual successor kind of deal. Like, because I don't even really. Does Twisted Metal have a lot of clout right now?
No, I want to say the original. That's not true. The PS3 remake, or kind of like rebranding. I think David Jaffe actually told me that it made its money back when we did our fireside chat, which is, I don't think anyone cares about that. If we're listening to this podcast, that's up to Sony to make their money back. But knowing deep in I feel it in my balls that these guys are coming out with a fucking proprietary multiplayer Battle Royale game, right? That will be like a download only, $20, maybe free, something like that. From some studio.
I would genuinely be shocked.
And you would be shocked if it was Twisted Metal, or you'd be shocked if they came out
I
with
would be
Battle
shocked
Royale
if they came out with like a proprietary Battle Royale.
Oh, I think you're going to be in for a fucking rude awakening, my friend.
Oh, man. Hey, man, I got other ships I can jump to.
You got like 8 PS4s in here.
I know. I don't know what else to do. But I actually like that idea. I think that's a clever idea. I don't think that it would necessarily work because we're talking about the gravitational pull of these games. I think it's over. But again, us saying as analysts, that it's over, right? Like that, like what's there is there, and people are going to pick apart the bones of what's there already. And you see with Destiny 2 and Call of Duty kind of being soft, Battlefield's inevitably going to be soft. They're not even launching their Battle Royale mode till next year. You have Anthem and the Division 2 on the horizon, etc. It's not going to stop them from doing it. Like, it's just not going to stop them. There's some person in a boardroom that's saying, like, we got to do this. You just have to know.
You're right about that. I just, like, I have to hold out some level of hope that that's not the case.
I would love for Sony to embrace more their traditional single-player heritage. Not saying that Gran Turismo and other games don't have a place in that heritage, but you are what you are. And just look at the sales of what you're doing. The big 3 games this year, the trio of games that were exclusive to PlayStation 4 this year, and Spider-Man Detroit and God of War are all single-player games. No multiplayer functionality, not even an option in any of those. And they did great. So I hope that they keep that in mind, but we'll see. And they won't keep that in mind. Next question comes from John Apocalypse. It says, hey, Colin and Chris, I would like to know, is there any part of history that you would like to see used in more video games? For me, it'd be World War II, but more of the conflicts with Japan, Korea, China, etc. I am really just tired of seeing Europe always being the center of World War II. Thanks, and continue to make Tuesdays great again. Are there any parts of history that you would want to see represented in a video game?
I like early 20th century kind of New York, like early city. You know what I mean?
So almost like Red Dead Redemption 2.
Almost like, yeah. Like
but out east.
But out, yeah. Or just like something that I don't see really often at all or ever is like the 70s. Just don't see anything in the 70s at all. You can make a pretty cool like cop, like buddy cop. I don't know. Something.
Yeah, because there are like the Mafia games that are like a little earlier than that.
Yeah.
And
the last game that I can think of that ever came close to this was Destroy All Humans 2 in 1960. That was set in 1969. And it was neat. It was like there was like some disco stuff going on. It was like weird and had some interesting things going on in it that were time period appropriate, like interesting like government agencies that had like really hilariously antiquated technology. I think it's a fun area that we don't really see all that much.
That'd be cool.
The 60s or the 70s.
That'd be fun as hell.
Especially aesthetically and musically. That could be like a fun.
Oh yeah, the music would be great. The licensing would be a nightmare, but yeah, the music would be great. Maybe we'll see Grand Theft Auto 6 in that time period, which would be cool, although that's far away from now.
Yeah.
What I would like to see is contemporary war games based in Iraq and Afghanistan and Syria and all those. Like really got upset when 6 Days in Fallujah was canceled, which was a long time ago. Konami was going to publish that game. The game was done, for people that don't know.
That was like 09?
09, I think, 08, 09. So for people that don't know, 6 Days in Fallujah was a Konami published game about Fallujah, the terrible Iraq, it's a place in Iraq, but it's where the terrible siege happened in Iraq in 04 or 05, I think. And they canceled it because of the outrage over it, which I wrote about extensively back when I was a journalist. And I was really upset about that because I was like, why can't we tell this story just like we tell the story of Vietnam or the story of World War II ad nauseum?
They made a movie about 9/11 like immediately.
Exactly, yeah, like and
like
United 93 and Flight 93 and all those things.
Yeah, and Fahrenheit or whatever.
And so I look at it and I'm like, I think it would be really cool to see stuff about Iraq and Afghanistan. I don't care how close we are to it. I don't care if we're still engaged in those places. Like, there's a lot of exciting storytelling. And I think that's one of the reasons why I took so much to Spec Ops: The Line, which is one of my very favorite games from the last generation. It's a story. That was my computer, if anyone heard that. Sorry. It's a story of fiction, and it takes place in a fictional Dubai that's kind of overrun by this environmental disaster. A really excellent game, and I know a lot of people that listen to me know that already. But what I liked about it was that it was in that setting, at least. And I would like to see a Call of Duty that's about the Iraq invasion, a Call of Duty about Tora Bora and early Afghanistan. Why can't we do that? Why does it always have to be something glamorous, in quotes, like World War II, or something futuristic like Advanced Warfare that never happened, when we have this place rife for storytelling? And it would be a really fucking cool one? Would be when the Russians, the Soviets, invaded Afghanistan in the 80s, which was their Vietnam, and widely considered like their quagmire historically. Let's play that from the Russian perspective, and have a Call of Duty campaign or a Battlefield campaign or something, or some sort of shooter campaign about the Soviets invading Afghanistan and getting rebuffed by guerrilla tactics very similar to what happened in Vietnam. There's so many cool, but there's so much sensitivity.
I think the problem is a lot of people view games still kind of as toys. I think that sentiment's lightened up in recent years or even in the last decade. I don't think it's as common, but I think a lot of people who are outside of the hobby still kind of view it that way. It's like you're playing a game. It's like when you see like a Titanic slide. You know
I saw your post about that.
Yeah, like I saw this slide at like this, I don't know, some pumpkin patch thing. It was like a slide that was the Titanic sinking, and I was like, that's kind of, I mean, it's been 100 years, but still, even I was like, that's funny.
Yeah, it's definitely funny.
But it's only funny because it's like that you thought that this would be an interesting thing to put at a kid's pumpkin patch. So I think people view it kind of like that, where it's like, oh, these are real things, and like these are real catastrophes or real events in history where real lives were lost. And it's like, I personally don't care. Obviously, anybody who's particularly educated on the medium knows that there's more to it than just like playing it.
Externally, I think a lot of people still don't really fully understand that.
You're right. You're absolutely right. I think we'll get there, though. I think we'll get those games, whether from a big studio or not. And obviously, I know that there are smaller shooters, squad-based shooters, third-person shooters, and stuff that take place in those. But they're not. It's not. You guys know that that's not what I'm talking about. I want $100 million, AAA experience. The only game actually that I think attempted to do that a little bit, and this game is so far forgotten at this point. Is you remember when EA remade Medal of Honor or like redid, and there was just a game called Medal of Honor? It was like 2010 or something like that, and that took place in the Middle East. I think that game sucked.
Yeah.
So
which sucks because I actually really like Medal of Honor.
I like the original one a lot. Yeah, I mean, that was a mind bending experience for me
on PS1.
Yeah,
I didn't play the PS1 one. I played Rising Sun and oh man, there was another one. Damn it, it was like PS2 and Xbox, but those were really solid games. They
were. I wasn't exposed to shooters being a console gamer really, and Medal of Honor was one of the very first-person shooters I ever played, back in the late 90s or whatever.
Frontlines. Medal of Honor Frontlines.
There you go. All right, one more question, Chris, and then we'll wrap this up. Marathon Simsec wrote into us on Patreon like you can. It says, "Hey, Colin and Chris. Just became a proud Patreon and firstly wanted to thank both of you for the content you put out there. Thank you for your support. Appreciate you. Now for my question. This might be a lengthy one and also a little out of your wheelhouse, but nonetheless, it probably concerns a majority of the gamers all around the world. I'm from Turkey, and my country's recent and not so recent political and economical choices led to an almost broken economy. Game prices went up by over 50%, and the luxury tax luxury tax was added because gaming became more luxurious. Just to give you a sense and scope, a bottle of water cost 1 Turkish lira, a Big Mac combo cost around 15 liras, and one single digital game cost 470 liras. That's almost 30% of the minimum wage in Turkey, and it became very hard and rough to buy games without game sharing or other ways, such as buying digital PSN accounts, etc. My question is, should publishers be adjusting their game prices for each country respectively by their buying power? I'm talking about digital games only, of course. Physical copies are a whole other thing. Very interesting question.
Yeah, wow.
My answer is no. And the unfortunate reality is that no matter where Sony or other publishers and stakeholders enter, they need to make money, right? The reason that Xbox thing happened, I think, in Mexico is because that's another emerging market for consoles that just wasn't that strong. If you read about the Brazilian market especially, weird shit goes on there.
Yeah, aren't they still buying PS2s?
They're still buying PS2s, and Master System and Genesis were still, and I think are still, viable consoles there. They're not necessarily releasing new games. A lot of it has to do with import taxes and all that kind of stuff. I think a PS4, I could be wrong about this, but I think when PS4 came out in Brazil, it was like $2,000 in American dollars.
Wow.
Because they have tariffs on their shit, basically. For better or for worse, I guess. But I'm sympathetic to people not being able to afford games. You hear about Australians all the time paying an extraordinary amount of games.
It's like $100 typically.
Right. And Canadians pay more. Canadians are paying $79.99, I think, for their games now, but that's in Canadian dollars. Canadian dollars, of course, are not that strong right now. But the fact of the matter is that Sony in particular is already at a bit of a disadvantage because of the fact that it's a Japanese company and it deals in yen and then translates those yen. And if you go back and read old market stories from the last 10 years or so, as the yen has fluctuated, Sony's fortunes have fluctuated totally based on their exchange rate with others that they do business with. So you can't let them go into markets and say, like, we're going to let this be cheaper here, because they have to make it up somewhere, and they're going to make it up in these other countries that are already also paying too much. In the US, I think we're actually paying a fair price. I think we're paying too low of a price. But unfortunately, what you guys are clearly dealing with an inflationary cycle in Turkey that's eroding the value of your dollar or your lira. And that's not something that can really be mitigated, because how can you go into other markets and say, like, hey, the Turkish gamers are paying too much, so now you're going to pay too much so that they can afford it? And I just don't know how you would work that out.
I'm not an expert on any of this, but correct me if I'm wrong. I believe there is some kind of analysis going on where you look at a market like the U.S. and Canada, and you kind of make kind of like almost a value proposition where, like, there's a lot of people here, and we need to be in the good graces of these people.
Like, this is a huge market, and we need to make it as affordable as we possibly can, because this market is so huge, whereas elsewhere in, like, maybe Australia, it's not quite as big of a market.
I mean, it goes back in 2013 when we were talking about PS4's anniversary. It was an unprecedented and unusual thing that made a lot of people mad that Sony chose to release PS4 in the United States first. Mm-hmm. People might forget that, Japan usually gets the consoles first. Japan got PS1 9 months before we got PS1 in the West.
Yeah.
But they took their entire allocation, all of their consoles, and sold them in the United States first to win here first, because this was the market that they realized they needed to capture. And as people will remember, they sold 1 million consoles in one day, and it worked out great for them at the sake of their own home market, which is almost unprecedented, and is unprecedented. And you'll see that happen, I think, again, because they can only manufacture so many of them, and they had to stagger this release. So you do have to, unfortunately, go after the markets that are most important to your bottom line. certainly they make money in Turkey or they wouldn't be there. Hopefully things pick up for you over there. And we appreciate you listening all the way over there from Turkey, which sounds like a delicious country. Although it's not named after the bird, I don't think. I was a little confused
Did the
about
bird
that.
come later?
This is a chicken. This is a literal chicken and egg thing.
Did they name the bird after the country?
That's a good question too. Well, the Ottomans were the Turks. So I think that...
Did the Ottomans make Ottomans?
That's another good question. It's like Persian rugs. I don't know if this was originated in Iran.
Right.
I think we're playing a little fast and loose with some of these terms personally. But the Turkey was named when the Ottoman Empire was still a thing. So I don't think that... I don't know.
Why do you have that information?
About what?
You know that the Turkey was named while the Ottoman Empire was still a thing?
Yeah, the Ottoman Empire fell after World War I after they
Right,
lost, and then they became Turkey. I think that's how it went. Yeah.
But the bird.
Oh, the bird. Well, the bird. Benjamin Franklin talked about in the 1770s how much he admired the turkey.
Okay, no, never mind. That makes more sense.
Yeah.
I was about to say, like, what the fuck?
I mean, turkeys were everywhere.
Yeah.
As the famous story goes, Benjamin Franklin wanted the turkey to be our national bird, not the bald eagle. So
No, turkey's a pretty lame national bird.
I think it would have been awesome.
No.
Because it's indigenous to our.
I mean, yeah, but I mean,
It's not gonna fuck you up,
it doesn't fly.
but it does feed.
Our national bird should be a cassowary, even though it's Australian. Because those things are actually for real velociraptors.
There's
real.
some horrifying shit going on.
It's pretty bad.
Yeah.
I've seen spiders like eat people's faces over there, like for real. It's gross.
I don't know what's going on over there.
Yeah.
Like I have no idea.
It's a grand experiment.
I've been invited to go there a couple times, and I've declined in the past to go do things because it's so fucking far away. But
the flight is like hell.
But I'm also afraid that if I go, I'm like, I don't know if I can ever get back.
Spider's gonna grab your plane out of the sky.
It's like I don't know if planes leave Australia. Once you go, I don't know if you can come back from Australia. So
Well, it's not Malaysia, so you're good.
oh well, I don't.
That poor plane. That is
The Malaysian
Did they
Air.
find it? They found it recently,
did?
didn't they? I think I saw maybe that might be just one of my dreams.
I forgot about that.
Yeah. Just the plane just vanished out of thin air.
It's like that show. What is it? Manifest. That's
Yeah.
on now.
We brought that show up a lot, and
know.
neither of us have seen it.
No, I keep seeing commercials for it because I watch
Football.
and other things. I guess and Erin's. I think I saw a commercial for it yesterday when she was watching like Grey's Anatomy or something, and it looks cool. But I wanted to make it. I don't have time to do this, and obviously it's probably not as funny as I think it is. But the commercials, like the teasers for whatever show, NCIS or whatever, and they cut up like little things that the people say throughout the show, and they're outrageous.
Yeah.
It would be funny just to cut all of those together, where it's like the president's dead, like things like that, and then like little one-off total non sequiturs.
Just
Where is my daughter? Like things like that.
just like all the most dramatic conversational beats of any given episode just smashed together.
It's funny. It makes me watch. Chris, that's all I have today for Sacred Symbols.
Yeah.
It was a good episode. Fun episode.
We had a little bit of fun.
That's slow. There's not too much to talk about. We went a little long today, but there's still not that much news. So
Yeah. This is far more conversational than normal,
yeah, it was good.
just because there's not a lot.
There's not a lot, and that's fine. And I do want to let everyone know, just to reiterate, that if you have any problems finding the show because of our feeds, you shouldn't. Nothing should be different for you. I know for most of you, nothing was different. Just let us know on Twitter, and we'll get to the bottom of it. And I want to thank all of you guys for supporting the show again. 20 episodes in, we'll hopefully do many, many more. And, we have some fun plans for December for, doing, it's funny. I don't know how you feel about this. I didn't talk to you about this, but, we did say we want to do like our most anticipated games of next year for an episode. We want to do our favorite games of this year for an episode. I think another fun one would be like the craziest news or ranking the news or whatever, and getting the listeners involved on Patreon to kind of organize what were the biggest beats of the year and things we forgot happened and stuff. I want to do some nice organization on the back end so we can have some fun episodes in December when
That could be fun, yeah.
shit gets really slow.
Yeah.
So Chris, I appreciate your time.
Of course.
Thank you. Thank you all out there. Remember, you can support the show on Patreon, patreon.com/ColinsLastStand. Otherwise, enjoy ad-free feeds and please leave us nice reviews. We'll see you next time for more Sacred Symbols, a PlayStation podcast. Goodbye.
Get Beat Saber. Take care, guys.
#ad.
Not an ad. I swear to God.
Sacred Symbols, a PlayStation podcast, is fan-supported over at patreon.com/ColinsLastStand. The following names are at the producer level or higher on Patreon, and I want to thank you from the very bottom of my heart for your incredible kindness and generosity. Martin Beck, Fred Bentz, Michael Betts, Eric Bishop, David Blodel, Mark Boggio, Spencer Brand, Isaac Brewer, Lennon Brixey, Matthew Brousseau, Josh Bushing, Austin Bullock, Andrew Burkhart, Dylan Burns, Alex Cabrera, Brian Cacciatolo, Will Caldwell, Jason Camargo, Luis Cancato, William O'Carroll, Matthew Carter, William Cashel, Brian Chand, Travis Chandler, Sean Chandler, Kenneth Charr, David Chestnut, Steve Clifford, Simon Conception Jr., Brad Cooley, Cutter Crow, Nick Cummings, Daniel Diamore, Daniel Delanikos, Travis Depew, Mitchell Durkash, David Ellis, Albert Escobar, Brian Fink, Joe Finelli, Kelly, Eric Finkenbeiner, Stefano Fontana, Photios Frangos, Connor Gazian, Alexander Gates, Michael Gates, Salem Ghanem El Ghanem, Daniel Glassford, Tyler Goodwin, David S. Graham, Josh Gravelick, Ryan Greenwood, Miranda Grubba, Andres Guzman, Tyler Harris, Asa Haas, Azan Isa Al Raisi, Josh Yeager, Paul Joyce, Greg Juliffs, Jeremy Key, John Klott, Kevin Komaki, Taylor Christian Laudrin, Christian Larson, Jackson Lastuka, Donald Laws, Joe Lawson, Don Q. Lee, Ashlyn Lee, Anthony Lencioni, Patrick Leslie, Dustin Lewis, Keith Adrian Lewis, Chad Lewis, Mark Liberto, Aaron Litwiller, Lewin Ray Loper, Josh M., Ryan T. Mandel, Joe McPartlin, Wyatt McVeigh, Albert Miranda, Patrick Malloy, Betty Ann Moriarty, Abe Mukhtar, Brian Nietzsche, Josh Netzel, Adam Nix, Brian Ott, Jorge Palomino, Todd Paxton, Brendan Peavy, Marius Scarson Peterson, Enrique Perez, Eric A. Peterson, Jason Pettit, Lawrence F. Prokop, Eric R. Pryor, Michael Renner, Peter Reynolds, Jonathan Rice, Toby D. Riemenschneider, Austin Riley, Ramon Rodriguez Jr., Petro Rose, A.G. Rowe, Matthew Savoy, John Schultz, Chris Schaefer, Toby Shootman, Riley Smith, Gerard Stewave, Steven Summingut, Ahmad Tamar, Ben Thompson, Carl Tolman, Tam Tran, Dan Vale, Adam Van Kuren, Oakley Waldron, Justin Wagaman, Dade Michael Edward Wendt, Mike Wayant, Tyler Woodall, Corey Wyatt, Tony Zaniga, Casual Misfits Gaming, Supershot ST, Mad Mock Media, Beric, Mubarak, Richter86, Dav9834, Chris, Wyatt Henry, Donk2015, and Random Guy Radio.